best picture of two gingers together in a tweet, so that's also gone just out now.
Perfect. Oh, see, now I have to look at that.
Oh yeah.
Tweet. I'm also going to retweet my earlier retweet. This is now.
This is
along with the link.
The time is now.
The time is not. It wasn't. Yeah, I was going to say nigh, but that's grammatically inaccurate. Nigh implies it's in. That is a great GIF. My word! Look at that. That's beautiful.
That's my community management background experience showing. And first person through the door is Compliment Cat, who is an excellent person. What, old friend?
Hello.
Welcome. Actually, Ben, I should have warned you in the preamble. I'm gonna get excessively English.
That always happens. Whenever I'm talking to another English person, that is you. My accent. I've lived in America now for 11 years, and my accent, I would say, has got the edges have been rounded off a little bit by living in America. The accent is fine. It's the delivery. It's the fact that, I'm living in SoCal for 11 years. Sometimes I end on an upwards inflection, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But when I'm speaking to someone else from England, or like when I call back home and speak to my sister, my accent dials back like 800% into full-on like Lutonian. What are you talking about? Like,
Doopy-doo, apples and pears.
Crikey, governor! Mary Poppins as I live and breathe. Like,
I'm so guilty of the same thing. Cry sticks now for the deluge. What, old friends? I never intended to have a catchphrase while doing this, and from a previous stream, I can't even remember the game anymore. But it might have been a Dark Soulsian thing. And just before busting through an entrance, I screamed, "Right, we're going to kick in this door, murder someone, and scream, 'What ho, dickheads!'" And that ended up becoming my go-to greeting. So
that's it, you did it, yeah. Good job.
So yeah.
Drinking America's finest beverage, Mountain Dew, because it was on sale.
Delicious. That's the best kind of flavour.
It's got this kind of like Spock's urine kind of hue to it, which is Oh, what a bouquet!
I'm getting wafts of Vulcan.
This is what I imagine if like a Vulcan had diabetes. This is what their urine would smell and taste and look like. That's.
Oh, this is going to be a fantastic day. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we got you on the show, dude. This has been far too long in the making. Saying my hellos. So Squidsurf, some numbers, Dorchus, Greenfire, J Crips, Tenardi Wow, C222 and the Lonely Penguin. Did I say hi to Squidsurf? I think I did. And Wraith, what-o! One of the other problems that I've found since becoming an expat is that I guess to make up for the lack of variations of English accent, I emulate a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really bad for doing shite Northern and really bad Glaswegian, and I always have to beg Wraith's apology because Wraith 260 down there lives in Glasgow. Yeah. So occasionally I'm like, "You thinking what? I'm thinking best years, Squid go like your brother." I can't help it.
My go-to when I'm frustrated is I kind of simulate Craig Charles's accent from like early Red Dwarf.
Yes.
It's I'm not going to do it now because there are people. I don't know if you saw this. There are actually people watching. Well,
firstly, I need to give a quick shout out to Squidsurf, who is now a subscriber, which is lovely. What, Owen? Thank you. But I need to bring your Craig Charles reference to something else that I'm running at the moment, and I hope you don't mind me plugging my show on my show. Anyway, we're doing a playthrough of XCOM 2. One of the reasons why
I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
Red Dwarf Mod Pack!
Yeah!
It's awesome, so good. It is so good. It's actually Crichton that's got the best lines in an XCOM environment.
Amazing.
Because it's just one-liners like, "Sir, I believe you are contractually obliged to give me 5.
Yeah. The show's so good. I mean, even the newer stuff isn't quite as good as the BBC era of the show, but
yeah,
it's still enjoyable. It's still some of the smartest, funniest sci-fi on TV right now.
Yeah. So, Rives and Moose is saying, so I assume Placeholder has been rescheduled. Because I didn't know if I was going to have you in for the show, so I put in a placeholder event, so people would know that I would have a cool guest on.
I actually know Placeholder, and Placeholder couldn't make it. placeholder is unavailable.
I mean, honestly, since placeholder made it big, it's been harder and harder, even just to get like a DM tweet out of him.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, his YouTube stuff's taken off. His stream is big.
Yeah.
He's hosting that show now on. I don't know if you saw. He's on Disney XD now.
Oh, is he on Disney XD? That's why he's been so busy.
Yeah. He I don't know if he's living there now, but he moved, or he's at least relocated temporarily to San Francisco because that's where that's where the offices are.
Oh, of course, that makes so much sense now. I mean, you'd think it being like placeholder being on the same time zone as me would make it easier, but there we go. You know, people they get big. There's going to be a lot of this today. Ladies, gentlemen, and individuals of all persuasions, this is ginger sarcasm squared. We've managed to find...
It is a genetic thing at this point. Like, there's a reason. Like, you and I met at E3 in, 2015, I think?
Yes, it was
2015, 2016. It was a few years ago because we were introduced to each other by Mikey Newman,
who is excellent people.
Who is a ridiculously magical, scrumptious human being, and then we bumped into each other. I think like the last 2 PAXs. Yeah, and now we're here. Every time I see you, I am shocked by it. Like in person, viewers, people in the chat, I cannot emphasize enough how much this man looks like Simon Pegg in real life.
Back!
It's unavoidable. Listen, I'm never going to stop talking about it. It is... I tell people, like, oh, I know someone who looks a bit like Simon Pegg. Like, that's my lame claim. Like, Doug Jones gave me a haircut, and you look a bit like Simon Pegg. Those are my 2 claims to fame.
Well, you know what? I'm very happy to be on that list. Oh, so
it's fun. I get to tell people the way I like to tell people that story now is I like to say one of the cast members of The Shape of Water gave me a haircut a few years ago, and you never guess which one it was, and they're always wrong. It's the Fish Boy. The Fish Boy gave me a haircut.
Yep. A sexy retelling of that one bit from Breath of the Wild. So, Frontline, what oh friend, how are you doing? Frontline is a fellow streaming friendo. There's a really good crew of Twitch peeps up here in Seattle. We get together once a month to get drunk. And the event's called Sober, which makes me very, very happy.
It's they're kind of leaning into the irony aspect of the of the gathering. Yeah,
I think they initially intended to be sober as in sober noodles, and they underestimated their crowd. And yeah, dude, I've been getting the Simon Pegg thing for years. Like, even when I grew my hair out, even when I got the feckin' side shave, like back when I used to do YouTube videos a lot, like it'd be at least first comment, who's that Simon Pegg looking Mother Hubbard?
What it is, now you've grown the hair out, you look like Simon Pegg and like early noughties Bill Bailey stepped into the teleporter from The Fly, and you stepped out the other side.
I would take that as a compliment, because that's a lot of talent in one heckin' place.
Oh, there's so much. Like, I cannot overemphasize rather just how talented Simon Pegg and Bill Bailey are. The fact that they work together so many times as well.
Yeah, I hope at some point to meet him as Simon Pegg as a human, but it is not this day, because this day I have got you. So
yes, sloppy seconds.
Oh dear Lord. So who have we got? No, they're just joking about the Wilman Pegsguard. Who is this Simon Pegg guy, and why does he apparently look like Will Waffleguard?
I like Wilman Pegsguard sounds like a European roll-on deodorant, like something that you find in like a French supermarket.
You nearly got a spit take out of me there. Nearly. This isn't even my keyboard. I would have to have bought a new keyboard.
Oh no.
Oh lordy. So yeah, come on in one and all. You've got a couple of minutes if you want to grab yourself a beverage or stretch your little leggies before we get started. And then I will properly introduce you to my guest and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be good times. I'm excited.
I have been stoked to have you on the show for crazy amounts, because what happens, I guess, for everyone who hasn't seen me and Ben in the real, like every time we meet up in an event, it's the usual like, I haven't seen you in ages, and honestly within 2-3 lines it's some reference to some old British gaming franchise. Last night I was desperately trying to do work and write serious emails while jumping back into chat and being like, holy shit, I had that version of Worms on that specific console.
that was a fun conversation, talking a little bit about like the many releases of the very first Worms game, and then the expansion packs that came out for the PC and the Amiga. Yeah, Worms was very much my jam. I know the exact day I first played Worms. It was January 11th, 1996. It was on the Amiga because my dad had got it for his birthday. And I think I played it much more than he did. So basically, my dad's friend got me a present for my dad's birthday. That's how that works out.
Nice. I'm still struggling to remember when I actually first got hands-on with it. I think it might have been early demo via... Because I was a big PC format obsessive. And I was a PC format obsessive for years. So it might have been through that, but that would put it too late on the timeline. But I know I played it on PC before. Then my mate got it on his PlayStation, and that's when we got hooked on it. And then, as I said, I remember playing the... Oh, no. Because I did... Oh, feck. See, now it's all just gelling together.
Because the game came out for pretty much every system except the Amiga in time for Christmas '95. So PC, Mac, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Saturn, PS1, like all of those versions came out in time for Christmas '95. In fact, there's an ad in the back of the manual for this is showing my age now. Alien Breed 3D on the CD32.
Yeah.
There's an ad for Worms on the back page that is very proudly touting a Virtual Boy version that apparently never entered development at all. They did not even get a dev kit for the Virtual Boy because the system tanked. But it was. I'm now looking at there's a website I like to go to because I do a lot of Amiga stuff on my YouTube show.
Yeah.
There's a website I like to go to called The Hall of Light, which is a fantastic resource of like release dates and like who worked on certain games and so on. But they have manual scans as well.
Okay.
So they have PDFs of manuals. So I'm now trying to look through that manual to see like a complete list of. Here we are. I remember so the ad campaign for the original Worms was "How hard is your worm?"
Oh, like that, the 90s was a bad time.
Well, it was Team 17 as well. Like they had cheat codes in the first Alien Breed game, slagging off people who'd given some of their previous games bad reviews.
Oh, very quickly, I just need to thank Geekonomicon for throwing us a follow.
Good job.
But I entirely know what you mean. Back then, like Team 17 were very much the cheeky lads of the English games industry.
Oh yeah.
One of the things I thought was really interesting going over their box art last night was reinforcing that. Like all their original box art was like Rambo cover meets kind of not quite Ren and Stimpy, but that sort of like adult comics style. Not adult comics. That's a very different. I see. The joke just came back on itself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the early Worms games, like Worms Reinforcements, Worms United, and Worms the Director's Cut, all have a line that it kind of straddles the line between being cartoony but also kind of realistic. Like it's a little bit.
Those 3D animations as well were just
yeah. I mean, at the time, I remember I never owned the CD32 version of the game, which had the cutscenes on it, but they released. Okay, so I used my dad subscribes to a lot of Amiga magazines in the early '90s, so I got to read Amiga Format, CU Amiga, Amiga Power. Amiga Power was one of my favorite magazines for a very, very long time. They kind of informed my attitude to how games should be reviewed. Like
I held it in my hand, but I never had a subscription to it.
Yeah, it was such a great magazine. They used a percentage. Like percentage is stupid, but fair enough. But an average, if a game was average, if it was okay, if it was mediocre, it was 50%. Like that was their barometer. And if it was better, it got higher. If it was worse, it got lower. But they used like that. They weren't grading like the way that most people grade games now or review games now. It's a 7.5 is average. It's okay. And I liked that Amiga Power were like, no, it's 50% because it's in the middle. That's how that scale should.
You could almost say that in terms of review scores, we've seen inflation over years.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Well, we also live.
I have not introduced you yet. It just struck me.
Let's do that.
Because I am guilty of doing the same thing. I am a waffle mancer par extraordinaire. And to go on any further would be criminal without introducing you all to my stonkingly cool guest here. So this is Ben Paddon, and Ben Paddon is exceedingly cool people. As said, first got introduced to Ben at E3 2015 by hero and cinema romancer Mikey Newman, who he was Gearbox at the time, which is why I was chatting with him. And he's remained a cool friend since then.
He's one of the best people on this, or indeed any other planet. I mean, I've never been to Mars, but I can't imagine there being anyone on Mars who is a better human than Mikey.
I mean, I've been to Earth -4, and there's some good people there, but Mikey's still top tier.
Yeah. I you know what? I haven't actually gotten a chance to visit any other Earths. I wanted to. I've heard very good things about Earth 565. But every time I have airfare alerts through airfarewatchdog.com, and whenever I get an email notification, it's in the thousands. Like, it's so expensive to visit.
I know. I keep saying I'm gonna pre-book 565 in the off season, and I just continuously forget.
My hope is that I get invited to PAX 565 as a guest, and then they'll fly me out. They'll put me up. But it hasn't happened yet. I think the Ben of Earth 565 is probably doing a pretty good job of covering those bases. So he does also have he still has the beard, but he has a goatee on top of the beard, kind of layered facial hair.
You got me.
It's not that he's evil. It's just it's just a good aesthetic.
Yeah, I like we managed to derail that before I even got to talk about any of your achievements. So, because Sneaky was the first person to saying, Ben, the record holder at the speedrun of Simon the Sorcerer, if I'm not mistaken.
That is me. I currently hold the world record speedrun for British adventure game Simon the Sorcerer. It came out in 1993. My world record is 58 minutes and 48 seconds, which I maintain can be beaten, but I haven't done it yet. I also have tendinitis. There's a whole story about why I did that speedrun that I haven't talked about, and I'm going to share that with you right now as an exclusive, because I'm a nice guy.
But I do want to reference that Rhymes and Moose immediately went to I can recommend Earth -69 as a vacation spot.
Earth -69 sounds like there's actually not a lot happening there. You want positive 69.
That's a good point. I make that mistake all the time, let me tell you.
You never go to Minus World. If I've learned anything from playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES, it's you never go to Minus World.
Why would you bring that up? That's a haunting place.
If you want to be killed by Bowser on one of those mushroom platform levels where you're swimming for some reason, that's definitely the place to go.
So what are some of the other things that you've done that people might know you from before we get tearing into stories and things? Because we are spoiled for tales.
I do a YouTube series called Port Center, which used to be on its own channel and is now on Filmjoy, so it's on the same channel as Mikey. I do a podcast called The Life Toyetic with Ben and Molly, where my friend Molly Alice Hoy and I watch a movie that is either based on or designed to promote and sell a toy franchise or a video game franchise. So we've done we did the Super Mario Brothers movie, we've done Ninja Turtles, we've done My Little Pony. We just did Action Man Robot Attack, which is a bad movie.
But why?
Because no one else is watching these movies, and so we kind of have to. Our next episode, which drops next week, we are watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, which was also, fun fact, the second episode of Movies with Mikey.
It was, and actually gave me such a healthy respect for those classic Turtles films.
Yeah. The first one is astoundingly good. The second one is, I would say, a little weaker, but it's still a fun watch.
Yeah,
and I have no memory of Turtles 3. I saw it in the theater, and I can't tell you anything there.
There was a Lady Turtle, and I still am confused by. So just quickly, I want to say hellos to Stooge, Shiny, Hindle, and who else nipped in there? And well, I guess Sneaky. I should have said a proper hello to you because thank you for the follow. What ho, friends, and welcome. We have ourselves a splendid guest on today, one Ben Paddon. We will be trading tales of old, of games industry, of the English Isles, and of Simon the Ruddy Sorcerer. So brace yourselves, one and all, as the tales come fast and furious. Do not avert your eyes, lest the tangents blind you.
Before this stream is over, I'm going to thrill you.
And I'm probably going to have spraying tea out my nose at some point. So.
It's going to be great. No, the trick is to get it on the webcam, because then people will think it's a really cool like coffee filter, but you've actually just sprayed tea actually on your webcam. Yeah. Sneaksy, by the way, asked me to do Simon the Sorcerer 3D, which is a bad idea.
Okay.
And, I actually think asking someone to play Simon the Sorcerer 3D actively constitutes a hate crime. It's a bad game. It's on GOG.com. If you want to buy it, you shouldn't, but you can. Because they finished the game in like 2000. They finished developing the game. Hasbro were going to publish it.
Okay.
And then what happened is instead Hasbro went out of business, and I think AdventureSoft ended up publishing it themselves. But it was like 3 years too late at that point. The graphics already looked dated. The game had a bunch of references to other Hasbro products in that were never removed.
Oh wow!
And it was just too late. Like the game didn't look good.
Sneaky's like, I take it back. I've got to take it back. Also, J. Cripps, thank you for being exceedingly generous and gifting a sub over to Sneaksy.
Yeah.
That's very lovely of you. I am spoiled by having a lovely group of people here. So we were reeling off. So let's go with the Simon the Sorcerer story first. As I said, one of the things that I want to talk to you about today is a lot of like classic, especially like 90s games industry stories and things like that, because we've seen a lot of nonsense the last couple of weeks in the games industry as a whole, and I think there's some stories we can glean, especially what you're saying about how like Team 17 used to be versus how they are now. Comparing that to Riot, I think is a good conversation. But first, Simon the Ruddy Sorcerer.
Yeah, so this game came out in 1993. It's kind of a Luke-style point-and-click adventure game. So if you like games like Monkey Island, but you want something that is a little bit more fantasy and also has a British sense of humour, and also the dubbed version, Simon is voiced by Chris Barry, who plays Rimmer on Red Dwarf. So everything's connected.
Yeah, and if you want all of those things and don't want to get wrecked by esoterically asinine puzzles like Discworld, I'm looking at you again, Discworld, you bastard.
Discworld. I love the I'm a huge Trey Pratchett fan, and I really want to games, but they're so obtuse. Their puzzles don't always make a tremendous amount of sense.
Yeah, even within their own insane, even within the insane logic of RimWorld. No, not RimWorld, bloody
Discworld.
I mean, RimWorld, I'd play a RimWorld adventure game. Feck it, why not? But yeah, so what got you into Simon the Sorcerer of all the titles to become clawing into?
Well, I mean, it's a game that I had played to death as a kid. Like, it was the first adventure game I finished by myself without needing to look up how to do it in a walkthrough.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just kind of, like, once a year, I go back to the game and I play through it. And then, I want to say it was about a year ago, Mikey and I used to do a stream on YouTube called The Antiquing Hour, where I would play an old game and he and I would talk while we were doing it. So we play stuff like The Lost Vikings or Star Wars Dark Forces.
Lost Vikings!
Yeah, great game. But like the third game that we played was Simon the Sorcerer, and we played for about 2 hours, and I realized I'm near the end of the game, and it's 2 hours. So I got to thinking, could I speedrun this? Because speedrunning is something I've been fascinated by for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
But because I'm physically disabled, I have fibromyalgia and tendonitis, so I don't have great like controller grip. I don't have great reflexes. I'm never going to be able to speedrun something like Super Mario World or Sonic the Hedgehog or something where you need that kind of like precision, like pixel perfect, that stuff is never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
So I would watch speedruns, and I'm fascinated by them, but I would get kind of melancholy because I'm never going to get to play at this level, even though I love video games. And then I realized after playing Simon the Sorcerer with Mikey, hang on a minute, I might be able to speedrun this. So I remember Googling Simon the Sorcerer speedrun on YouTube and finding a finish the game in 21 minutes, which is a lot faster than 2 hours. I don't know if you know how time and math work, but 20 minutes.
I understand one of those two concepts very well.
So it's a significantly smaller number. So I watched that video, and they were running the game at 4 times speed in ScumVM, which that's cheating. You're not playing the game at that point.
Yeah.
So I downloaded the video using one of those programs that let you download stuff from YouTube, and I opened it up in Premiere and slowed it down to, I slowed it down 4 times to get it to regular speed. and worked out that his time was actually closer to about 80 minutes.
Okay.
So I analyzed I kind of watched and made notes on what his or her or their path was.
Yeah.
And realized they're actually using a very optimal path to finish the game. They're just cheating by running it at 4 times the speed.
Yeah.
So I looked at their path. I made a couple of tweaks. I did a test run. I decided I was going to stream it. I was going to do a test run, and when I looked it up on speedruns.com, there was no time. There was no record for this, and I thought, this is brilliant. All I have to do is run the game once, and I'm a world record speedrunner. Perfect. And then in the 5 days between me deciding I was going to do it and sitting down to do it, some bastard in Germany logged a time of 1 hour and 17 minutes.
Now it's time to sink the Bismarck.
Yeah, like that was the time that I thought I was probably going to get about 1 hour, 1:15, 1:20. So I do my first run, and it's really a test run. It was the first time I'd sat down to play the game through from beginning to end on the stream.
Yeah.
And my first time was about 1 hour 7 or 1 hour 8. So I beat their time by a full 9-10 minutes. I was very happy about that. And then a couple of days later, I thought I can shave that down, and I got it down to I think it was 1 hour and 2 minutes.
Nice.
And then I became obsessed with trying to get it below the 1 hour mark. Like that for me, that was the benchmark. If I could get a sub 60-minute run, I would be happy. I would stop speedrunning the game. I did a couple of runs where I didn't quite get there. I didn't beat even my 1 hour and change time. I did streams where I had other people like David Bulmer, who I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he does a lot of YouTube videos about old video games. He sat in with me on a stream and we chatted while I was playing.
Yeah.
And then I made the decision to switch from the dubbed version of the game to the subtitled version of the game. And that sped things up significantly. And I ended up doing a run. God, this was about 3 weeks ago now. I did a run at 58 minutes and 48 seconds.
No big deal.
Yeah, I did it, and that was my third recorded run. And that's it.
It's
so
one
now
of the things I love about
holding speedrunner.
I love about games culture these days is that it's the things that's entirely valid. So I want to jump into chat because we've got a lot of cool comments. Greenfire's asking if we're going to play Discworld on stream. Possibly, I will scream like a monster, but I'll probably do it. Sneaksy said they managed to pick it up in Asda for £5. Simon the Sorcerer for a $5 in Asda. That is the most English thing I ever heard in so long.
They reissued it on CD-ROM. I want to say a year or two before I moved to America, because I remember seeing it in a DVD package, because that's how games were being released in the UK then.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it at Game, PC World, and I think I saw it in Asda. For about £5-10, and they had a bundle pack as well that had the first 2 games and the Simon the Sorcerer pinball.
Yeah, I remember seeing it for years on those little spinning rotisserie sold out. Not sold out the brand, but similar to. So jumping back in, the other thing, Rhymes and Moose would like to remind us all that Bethesda is selling a Vault 76 dog hoodie, a hoodie for your dog as a Vault dweller. This is a thing I don't have a dog, but if I did, I would buy the hell out of that.
My roommate has a dog, so I guess I'm getting him a Vault 76 hoodie.
Yeah, Alleged saying, Ben, I have tendonitis as well as I can't pronounce that condition. Alleged man, I do apologise.
Fibromyalgia.
So.
Sorry, hemaparesis.
So there's definitely some stories that can be shared there, I reckon.
Yeah.
Jumping back.
And that's the thing though, is because of my physical limitations, even before, because the fibro became a thing for me, actually just before we met, that was when the symptoms started to kind of really present themselves. Even before that, I was never I never had great reflexes. I could, play Super Mario Brothers through from beginning to end, but I even had trouble doing the infinite lives turtle glitch. I couldn't do that. So I thought, especially now I'm disabled, there's no way I'm ever going to be a world record speedrunner. And then I decided I was going to do it. And I did it, and now I am one.
That's really cool.
I'm still waiting for a crown. I'm assuming they mail you a crown or they FedEx it to you.
There was a slight delay on the world record speedrun crowns a while back. I think it was like a raw materials thing. The specific place where the gems that they set in the middle come from was having like a trade embargo problem, but it should be solved soon.
That makes sense, yeah. I think it's the same problem. You know how when you hit like 100 subscribers on YouTube and they send you a plaque?
Yeah.
But they don't send it straight away. I assume it's like that.
Yeah, but it's more hand chiseled.
Yeah.
So jumping back in, the Bearded Link says, just asking, what are we doing? What is the topic of discussion? Well, at the moment we're talking about Ben's speedrunning styles and speedrunning titles. But today we're going to be talking classic games industry and nonsense. That's right, you have twice the amount of English ginger in one stream. You are not ready. You are not ready.
It's too ginger, it's too sarcastic.
That would actually be our racing movie title. Too ginger, too sarcastic. It's you and me hanging out the side of a fucking Morris Minor or something, being like,
you, me, Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's in the steering wheel, at the steering wheel of the car. He's driving. He's going 100.
Yeah.
Very fast, is he? Oh, come on, Vin, speed up, mate. Like,
what are you doing, Vince? It's only yellow. Keep going. We're gonna miss the chippy, Vince. Vince, we get there late. The cod's all gone.
We're gonna end up with cold salmon. That's what we're gonna end up with. You don't want.
Oh, battered sausage, do you, Vince? Nah, you want cotton chips to speed it up.
I worked in the customer service call center for NTL, the cable company, for a couple of years, which was a wonderful job. They're Virgin Media now.
Yeah.
But the building where the call center was, there was a little chippy just around the corner that did the best fish and chips I've ever had in my life. But one of the people I worked with, who went by and continues to go by the name of Adam Croft, who's now a best-selling novelist. Like he's
bloody course he is.
Like bloody hell. But I would get fish and chips, or I'd get like a little burger or something, and he would get the battered sausage. But the joke of the time was always deep fried horsecock. Like that's the go-to, because that's what it looks. Because it's long and use your imagination.
I feel that this is kind of like an Englishism we're explaining. And when I finally got over the mockery to try bad sausage, it's actually really good. Who knew? So jumping back in, so there was a couple of good questions. Who was it was asking you about?
Neo Cow Plays, because I do a YouTube show about video game ports. Neo Cow Plays asked, "What's the worst port you would rather never review, Paddon?" Which is me. Oh god, I mean, there's a lot of really bad ports. I'm going to do, and I've been meaning to do this for a couple of years now. I finally have a copy to do it.
Yeah.
I want to do an episode about the European exclusive Game Boy Color version of Daikatana. Because it is actually good. It's like a Legend of Zelda, like a Link's Awakening style action RPG, and it is surprisingly solid. Like, they take the same story as the PC and N64 version, but made an enjoyable game out of it.
I'm not saying that I played it via the medium of emulation, because, and if I had done, it would have been only because I was a broken preteen. Yeah. But that game is so much better than it has any right to be.
Yeah. Well, was it John Carmack who developed John Romero? Romero worked.
Did he?
Did he?
To the internet!
Yeah, I'm Googling it now. It was one of the Doom people. John Romero, yeah, because the ad campaign, like the pre-release ad campaign was, John Romero is about to make you his bitch. That was what the ad said. It was terrible. But he actually posted to his website for a while. It's not there anymore because the site is down. But you could go onto his website and download the Game Boy ROM. And he was immensely proud of the game. And yeah, he just posted it up as a free download. I have a physical copy somewhere. I've moved, but
that's one of the ones I haven't been able to acquire. Because after getting Metal Gear on the Game Boy Color, and one of my all-time favorite games is a Neo Geo Pocket Color game called Fasele. Like, I have a lot of love for handhelds. That's my personal obsession. Is anything like DMG-01 era Game Boy. I don't have it with me in the States, but Tanari Wow's seen the Horde, and it is ridiculous.
Wow.
Like, row after row of grey cartridges. But I do want to... There's one thing that I do want to shout out from chat, which is chat pointing out that their local chippy sells battered Terry's chocolate oranges.
I saw that. That sounds heavenly.
Oh dear Lord!
I'm hoping to go back to England. Probably in April or May, either for my birthday or for my nephew's birthday in May.
Yeah.
My sister lives just around the corner from a great little fish and chip shop. I might just go in, buy a squid surf, thanks for stopping by. I might just go in with a Terry's chocolate orange and say, how much would you charge me to just deep fry this?
Now, would you do it as an orb, or would you do it like would you do each slice individually, like like a proper chip shop chip style? Which one would you go for? Because that's where I find myself torn.
That's you know what I would do? I would buy two, and I would do one with the individual segments, and I would do one where you deep fried the whole thing and as one solid mass.
Oh, I'm glad we found that.
You cover both the bases. You got to do it.
Right. So what? Hang on. What's another classic Tim Follins soundtrack we can put on? Was it Pictionary that had the stonkingly good soundtrack? Because we've done Bionic Commando already.
Yeah.
Was it Pictionary that had the crazy good soundtrack?
I don't know that I ever played Pictionary. He worked on he did Lemmings, didn't he? Did he work on Lemmings? Oh, he worked on one of the newer versions of Lemmings. Sorry. Yeah, he worked on actually Team 17's version of Lemmings for the PSP.
Bloody hell.
I'm looking at his because he did a lot of really solid stuff back in the day. Bubble Bobble, Black Lamb.
Yeah. Oh, sorry one and all for derailing the chat. If you don't know of him, so Tim Follins is a legendary composer who did a lot of chiptunes era stuff back when it was just crap music on a console. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if he had a special affinity for it, or if it was just his style. But most of there are so many great soundtracks that he is responsible for. That's just. And Dort just really likes the idea of Lemmings. Which Lemmings port did he do?
He did the PSP and PS2 versions of Lemmings, the ones that Team 17 did.
I'm going to go for Lemmings. Give us the. I'm going to go for the classics.
Yeah, go for the original. There's a. If you're going on YouTube, there is a video that is literally just the entire Amiga thing. What's that word I'm thinking? The Lemmings Amiga soundtrack. Soundtrack is the one.
Oh yeah, Lemmings Amiga soundtrack.
Emulated. Vengeful Chip.
Oh, thank you, Vengeful Chip, for being a hero. So that's going to be our little... Because that's a very English title right there. Wait.
Lemmings. It was DMA Design, who later went on to do Grand Theft Auto, became Rockstar. Lemmings is not only is it a quintessential British game, it's also it first came out for the Amiga. It's another example of the Amiga, which was again very, very popular in the UK and in Germany and in other parts of Europe, not so much in America unless you worked in the visual effects team for Babylon 5. It's a quintessentially British system.
I should have warned you all. The references were going to be coming thick and fast. Like, we're not pausing, we're not stopping for breath. Just as long as you're all aware. Oh, and the Lonely Penguin's going to try and do a speedrun of Bamboo Ball and Bamboo EP. Interesting.
Oh, nice.
I'm obsessed with Bamboo EP. It's the Sock Pop Collective, and it's like just these bizarre bamboo-themed games. Like, one of them's like Animals of Farthing Wood meets Ninja Scroll. The other one's basically like crazy dodgeball. It's awesome.
Des and Fox Played literally just asked, what's an Amiga? I've never felt older and more foreign in my entire life. So,
I've been waiting for 80 years!
It's been 84 years. So, the Amiga, there was a system that Commodore, this wasn't their system, it was certainly a very popular system in the 80s called the Commodore 64. And kind of their successor to that range of home computers was the Amiga. It was kind of a very simple, kind of self-contained, almost kind of like I want to say proto Macintosh, like the way that Macs were in the 90s.
Yeah,
kind of those self-contained computers. The OS was very similar as well, with the drop-down menus at the top of the screen. It was like the home computer in the late 80s and early 90s. So that's where I first played games like Worms and Monkey Island and Lemmings and like Shadow of the Beast.
Oh, feckin' Shadow of the Beast gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
Feck that game.
the game that gave me, like, the game that terrified me as a kid, there was a game, it was based on the artwork of H.R. Geiger called Darkseid. And...
Feckin' Darkseid!
Darkseid, like, there's a bit, the beginning of the game, where you're exploring the town, and then, like, the internal clock in the game, like, hits 6 o'clock and everywhere closes up shop for the night. Yeah. And you go back to your house and there's like a basket on your doorstep and there's a baby in there. And you look at the basket and the baby melts and turns into this alien and then dissolves. The first time that happened, I turned off my computer and walked into the other room and I didn't touch my Amiga again for a day and a half. And when I did finally go back to it, I uninstalled the game and formatted every single one of the floppy disks, so whatever was on it couldn't get me anymore.
Just magnet over the bastards.
Yeah. Now, this was a problem, because piracy was rampant on the Amiga. I would say most of the games that I had were not legitimately acquired copies.
Hey, don't copy that floppy.
Exactly, but we did. We absolutely did all the time. And then you have games like, by the way, Cannon Fodder, the manual for Cannon Fodder, page 1, the first thing it recommends you do is copy the floppy, so that if anything happens to it, you're running off of the copies, not off the original. You can just make another copy.
I mean, they were asking for it at that point.
Yeah, at that point, you know, at that point, really, you know, if you're going to walk down the street with the first page of your medics, you know, dumb joke. The copy of Darkseid we had was like one of the few games that my dad had shelled out money for. Like, he'd gone into a store, he'd walked over to an electronics boutique, and he bought it with money. And the box for that thing was gorgeous. Oh, yes. My dad was a huge fan of H.R. Geiger, and I killed the game. Like, that thing might have value now if I hadn't formatted the discs out of terror.
I honestly don't blame you. So jumping back into chat, a lot of young'uns, and a lot of people who remember Cannon Fodder, alleged saying a game that scared the crap out of me was a space game called Mantis. There was an FMV sequence where a mantis busted out of a news anchor like an H.R. Geiger alien. Like,
I don't think I played Mantis.
The one that really unsettled me for the longest time was Phantasmagoria, but I don't want to drag us too far off of the straight and narrow. Well, actually, weird tangents all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no. We're gonna spend the rest of the days tangenting all over the place. Cannon Fodder, like, the first proper I did a pilot for Port Center about the PS1 version of Doom. Yeah. Like, the first proper episode I did was about the Game Boy Color version of Cannon Fodder, because that thing had a fully animated, pre-rendered CG FMV sequence.
Yeah, it did.
At the top of the game on a Game Boy Color cartridge. That was amazing to me as a kid. Like, seeing that kind of tech on the Game Boy Color was absolutely astounding.
I'd love to know how they feckin' did it, because the limitations of that, the Game Boy Color, were ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm sure someone somewhere has done like a breakdown of like the technology behind it. That's the kind of thing I want to send to. Oh God, I've forgotten her name. She wrote this. It's Christine Love, I think her name is. But she wrote this this breakdown of why the Super Game Boy was an amazing piece of kit and why it was underused. Like, there are so many features on the Super Game Boy that went unused for the majority of its run. Like, the Super Game Boy cartridge for Space Invaders also has the Super Nintendo version of Space Invaders on it as a separate ROM. So I would love to send her the cartridge for Cannon Fodder, or like point her towards a ROM and say, how did they do this? Because her breakdown of the Super Game Boy is one of my favorite things in the entire universe, and I would love to see her breakdown. There are a couple of Game Boy Color games that did some very early FMV stuff.
Yeah, and it became more common as people moved into the Game Boy Advance, but a lot of them just brute forced it, and you could see how much of the cartridge was taken up on trying to brute force video, but that's not the story. So one of the things that we touched on earlier, and one of the things that I'd like to get us kicking on today, is that you mentioned good old Team 17. We're going to pick on them a little bit today.
They've released 100 games now. They're doing Ashley Day over at Team 17 has been doing a series of articles on their website breaking down.
97 of them are Worm sequels.
There's a lot of Worm sequels. Let's not be.
I'm sorry, that was savage.
Well, no, I mean, when they shifted during the Amiga era, they were self-publishing their own stuff. They were taking risks. They were doing their own thing. They were, as you said, they were very much kind of the bad boys of the British gaming scene. Once Worms came out, Ocean Software was publishing their games. So like Alien Breed 3D, Worms, All-Terrain Racing, God, that other racing game that they did, I can't remember the name of.
I can picture the box art clearly in my head. I also want to take a brief moment that if you get the chance to Google Ocean Software box art, you are in for a hot treat. Because
Ocean did some stuff. They got a lot of movie licenses as well.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get a good link to show everybody whilst we're chatting. So they were being published by Ocean Software.
Yeah, they were published by Ocean Software. When Ocean went out of business, when Microprose went out of business, the license transferred to Hasbro, and because they were no longer kind of in their own destiny in terms of what they were and weren't publishing, they kind of got stuck doing a lot of Worms sequels and spin-offs. And this is the era where we had things like Worms 3D and Worms Blast and Worms Sports Under Siege and Worms Golf on phones and then they started doing like GamesFire, which is how we end up with the PSP version of Lemmings, which wasn't bad. It wasn't perfect, but it was a good time. And they did an Army Men game in 2005 or 2006 called Major Malfunction.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which
I forgot that was them. Bloody hell!
It's them. Yeah, they also did. They did one of the Leisure Suit Larry games that came out like for the PS2 and the Xbox. It was either. I think they did Box Office Bust.
Okay.
I'm gonna look it up now.
So while you're having a look on that one, so yeah, if you manage to find a good collection, so back in the day, Ocean Software had I'm pretty sure it was Ocean that were infamous for the kind of the prog rock style box art, especially for the Amiga Classic games. That was just this gorgeous, ridiculous box art, which sometimes had almost nothing to do with the titles.
You might be thinking of Psygnosis there, because they also did a lot of...
yes, I apologise.
Like heavy metal. Yeah.
It's that feckin' owl face, I can just see it.
Yeah, oh god, like Psygnosis boxes were gorgeous, like stunning. They were like the cover of like Heavy Metal magazine, and they had almost nothing in the game. Like I remember, the one that sticks out in my mind is there was a puzzle game called Atomino, where you had to connect up atoms, and they had like a certain number of electrons circling them, and you had to connect the right colors with it. Was I can barely remember how it's played, but the box art had like this gnarly, like it looked like Christopher Lloyd and Professor Wheato from the Wheatos box had like fused into one godlike creature with his hands like stretched out like this with atoms dancing. And it was just this visually beautiful piece of artwork. And then they had games like Agony, where you played as the owl from the logo. It was like a scrolling shoot-'em up. That game was gorgeous.
So I found at least one which has got like a classic on the Psygnosis. And I apologise for derailing the Team 17. But the things that I just want to quickly restate whilst we're doing this one is that Team 17 started doing it by themselves in the Amiga. So they were publishing themselves back in the Amiga days. They then signed with Ocean for publishing on a few titles. And that's when things started to rock up. And during this time, they did, as you were saying earlier, have this bad boy. Like, they were making knob jokes in their adverts. They were taking pot shots at gaming magazines in their cheat codes. Like, they were kind of the lads in the games industry.
Their website had a beer garden section on it, which was just about them getting drunk. Like, this was what Team 17 was back in the day. Even, like, the beer garden was still on their website in, like, 2003, 2004.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, things changed. The company now, the thing is, like, over the last, like 5-6 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, they've gone back into self-publishing, and now they're publishing other people's stuff again. People don't realize this. One of Epic Games did a pinball game for the PC that was published by Team 17 in 1994.
Yeah, which ended up doing very, very well. I keep seeing the press releases of it come through my inbox.
Yeah.
Desmond Fox says, wait, Contra had another name. Contra had tons of names. Don't even... I'm not touching Contra because I can do... like, where was it? It was Probotector, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject, because we talked a little bit about Psygnosis, they did a game which Contract 16 has mentioned called Wiz and Liz, which was this... I remember seeing... The first time I saw Wiz and Liz was... Do you remember? It wasn't Game Master. It was the one that Sky did, called like Games World or whatever it was.
Was that the one with the 3D robot?
Patrick Moore as the robot. That was Games Master, and Games World was the one that I think Larry Bundy was on.
Oh, so I've met Larry since then. I never had Sky, so I never saw the show.
Oh wow, okay.
It was a weird thing because I met Larry at an industry event, actually a comics event, through a friend, and then afterwards found out he had this massive following from doing a show back in the day on Sky.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Well, I remember I used to watch Games World all the time when I was a kid. Like I would put it on as soon as I got Games World. And one of the games they would play is like this 2-player versus mode on Wiz and Liz, where you're on a map and you have to collect the most rabbits, and it's a whole big thing. I didn't get to play Wiz and Liz until I want to say 2002 on the Amiga, and I fell in love with it. It's such a great game, and the soundtrack is amazing. Yeah. But they also did a Mega Drive version as well, which is basically the same, but the music is just different enough. So this is a game with 2 distinct, separate soundtracks that are both by the same guy, both have the same aesthetic, and are both incredible. Like, putting out a soundtrack for one game is something. Putting out a soundtrack for one game twice, where every piece of music is a banger, that's incredible.
Yeah, I like that they didn't just direct port, as a lot of did, because the Mega Drive chipset was so different sound-wise. They actually looked into it. So just jumping into chat real quick. So yes, Contra was rebranded as Pro Protector in European territories, which the story goes because there was a terrorist group called Contra in the media, and everyone was like, no. And this was also during the aggressive censorship of video games time, where you couldn't shoot guns in a video game, you had to shoot lasers and things like that. So everyone was changed into robots.
That's kind of the same. Well, it's not exactly the same thing, but Star Fox was renamed Star Wing in the UK because some European company had the trademark on Star Fox, and that didn't just affect Star Fox. Star Fox 64 was released in Europe as Lilac Wars. Yeah. And the first game to have the Star Fox name was, I think, Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube.
Of all the ones to get the name.
Yeah.
Oh.
The least Star Fox game.
Yeah.
I'm just pouring myself some more Mountain Dew over here.
It's fine. At some point, I will abuse the fact that I have a guest so that I can go make myself more tea, but it is not this time. And GC was saying that the 3D robot was Cybernet. That was Channel 3's late night one.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember
No, you go ahead, please.
I was going to reference the phenomenon that was Bits, specifically the Bits girls. 3 actually very well-respected female kind of game journos who were all thrown together in this insane... I want to say it was Channel 4, because it feels like a Channel 4 kind of thing.
I don't remember that at all. I know that there was... Ian Lee hosted something on Channel 4 for a while that was like a late-night game show, a game magazine show called Thumb Bandits.
I remember that Thumb Bandits. And I think anyone apart from Wraith isn't going to know bloody Consolevania when it first came out.
Oh god, yeah, Consolevania was so good.
Yeah. Games Master, I need some help on this. Get to Fick. So good. And I guess I'm trying to give people who weren't in the UK during that 90s kind of games rush, like how it was so weirdly part of culture and at the same time not. Yeah. Like, Games Master was on telly. Patrick Moore was the fucking Games Master.
Sir Patrick Moore, the guy who used to host The Sky at Night. He was famous for looking into a chuffing, what is it? I forgot what they're called.
Telescope.
Telescope, thank you.
Knighted by the Queen is the master of video games.
And he told people cheat codes for Super Nintendo games.
Yeah. But he would always do it in this, like, you've come before me, I will grace you with knowledge, now be gone. It was so good. And it was so impactful that there was parodies of it, that, it was... and, Dominic Diamond presenting kids playing video games in these varying cool environments. I still remember the oil rig one was the one I thought was the coolest.
Yeah. Oh, God, that whole... I mean, the sets on that show, because it was like an arena. It was like a...
Yeah.
It was like a full-on, like it was the kind of size and scope of something like Robot Wars, kind of. But there's people in the middle playing like Street Fighter against each other, and then didn't Channel 4, because didn't the Golden Joystick Awards start off as something that Games Master were doing?
Did they?
I mean, I might be confusing it, but I remember Games Master giving out golden joysticks, and I kind of feel like I might be dreaming this. That may have been imagined. It might be the fevered rantings of a madman.
Okay.
But I distinctly remember Games Master, the TV show, giving out golden joysticks.
Now, was it because the golden joysticks came from Games Master magazine, and then the console was part of?
Because the magazine came after, and the magazine was
the magazine after? I thought,
well, it was the magazine. Yeah, the magazine grew out of the show, and as Wraith 260 in chat has pointed out, as recently as this month, Games Master magazine was still going. Yeah. The magazine has long, like how Doctor Who magazine was still being published despite the fact there was no Doctor Who on the air in the 90s.
It was a different time. Also, poor little out for Games Master magazine. While physical media in games journalism may have died, we will always remember you. Also, is that Contract? Yes. So Contract is made a gamepad on Bravo with Violet Berlin. Now, Violet Berlin was one of the original Bits lasses. And Violet Berlin is a stonkingly cool human, a great writer, and incredibly personable when talking about video games.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing these names make me very happy. Anyway, so where were we at in the story of Team 17? So they just hit the 3D era and were kind of transitioning into like PS2, like the era of the big consoles.
Yeah. So like this was when like they did Stunt GP for the Dreamcast and the PS2. The first Worms 3D, the first 3D Worms game came out in 2003 for the PC, PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. And there was also a Mac
Worms
version
3D
eventually.
was way older than that because
2000. I'll tell you how I know it was 2003 because I took the day off. I was at my very first day job, and I took the day off to go and buy it,
nice,
and go home and play it all day.
In a time when you actually had to worry about physically getting a copy.
Yeah, like I like going in. I mean, it came on 2 CD-ROMs. This was where we were. It was like pre-DVD.
Oh.
And I remember enjoying it. It's okay. I'm one of the. I don't think Worms quite works in 3D, but they had a good go of it. Like this is the thing. I give Team 17 credit because they were very keen to avoid all of the pitfalls that other games like Monkey Island and Lemmings and Bubsy had fallen into when they were trying.
Bubsy.
When they tried to transition
that cat got
from 2D
put
to
down.
3D. Yeah. Word.
I think Bobsy got rabid. Quickly jumping back into chat. So Jay Cripps is saying Bad Influence. That was not one of the game shows.
Yeah, that was on CITV, wasn't it? And Violet Berlin.
Yeah, Violet Berlin's a feckin'. I need to see what Violet Berlin is up to these days. I'm sure they'd be cool for jumping on show.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give away the point of this little this retelling too much beforehand. But one of the things that I think is really important to look at is how Team 17 changed both its attitudes and its images as a company. Like, it went from being this lads, oi, oi, doot-dee-doo.
Yeah, so, it was very like beard. Oi, who are you?
Yeah,
blokey, laddie studio to being. I mean, even what it was 10 years ago, and then what it is now, which is like it's probably the fact that, for example. I don't mean, for example, the thing to remember is Team 17 was an indie developer in like the early 90s, and it's still indie now. Like there are other companies like Core Design and DMA that have been gobbled up by these larger companies, and Team 17 is still independent to this day. And it's actually gone back to self-publishing their stuff, which is incredible. Like that's a kind of roller coaster journey that you don't see very often.
Yeah, and while I know from a financial standpoint the companies are very different in terms of the amount of income, but I can't help but draw parallels between that and kind of Riot. So, Riot Games starting not as much of a blokey lads, oi oi, but starting as kind of this, esports, get wrecked, like coming from that like esports space, coming from that core, like hardcore multiplayer space, and carrying into this large company. And one of the things that I feel, and one of the reasons why I want to tell these stories with your help, is because, Team 17, it helped that it had a slower growth than Riot, but rather than doubling down on their old studio culture, they changed and evolved. They grew up as they needed to.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that's really worth talking about.
Absolutely, yeah. I know that there've been a lot of stories, particularly recently, about Riot, the culture over there, and how it's not necessarily friendly to women. And again, Team 17 was kind of like that a little bit in the 90s. It was a very kind of blokey lads environment, very different culturally, because there's a difference between lad culture in the UK versus in the US, because lad culture in the US tends to be more wrapped up in sports and strip joints, whereas in the UK it's more about having a pint and watching the footy and reading the latest issue of Nuts magazine.
There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
I don't even know if there's still Clint doesn't exist anymore, does it? That was the other one where the font was designed to put the L and the I a little bit too close to each other, so it looks like there's the other word that I absolutely refuse to say.
Mm-hmm. Which was also a cheat in Carmageddon, which continues to make me laugh. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, we're telling old English game stories. Yeah. I'm just going to tangent a little bit. One of my favourite things is that during that kind of 90s spree, there was a real problem with games magazines printing the cheats for games as they were coming out. And then users would use all the cheats and complain the games were too easy. So the cheeky Mother Hubbard who made Carmageddon decided, as a little FU to the English print media giant that was Future Publishing, that the master cheat code, the cheat code you had to enter to add any other cheats to Carmageddon, was "I bet you can't print" and then the C word. And now still to this day I'm just like, nice!
Oh, that's amazing. I did not know that. I've never actually played a
you didn't miss too much. Like, they didn't handle too great, and the premise wasn't like, it wasn't anything that Twisted Metal wouldn't do better. But it was that first one to be like, you know what? If you want to hit someone's nan at 150 miles an hour with a Lamborghini covered in spikes, there, done. Just do it. Although in the UK they changed them to zombies from people because of, again, censorship. Like, people talk about censorship, and they talk about... one of the ones I hear a lot, and I promise we'll get back to 90s games, because I don't want to get into the contentious topics too early. But I hear a lot about the social justice censorship, as if there is this council of socially minded individual running around and censoring games. You can't have that in your video game. Ooh.
Yeah, like there's this imaginary circle of people wearing pointy shoulder pads and big hair from Bill and Ted, all pointing at developers saying, you can't put that in your game. It might have something. No, there's no imaginary cabal of social justice censorship people going through picking out, bits and bobs from games. That's not happening. A lot of what is happening now is studios saying, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Like, I still remember the furor on social media, or the furor, however you want to pronounce it, makes it sound a little less Hitlery. When Skullgirls, when they removed a frame of animation from one of the characters in Skullgirls where you could see the character's panties, and they removed that frame, and sweaty, balding, haven't seen a real woman since 1987 people on the internet got so angry. How dare you take away the drawing of the panties? Like, how small a life do you have to be living to be actively upset about?
Yeah,
that? And I don't understand it.
We've come from an era when you genuinely couldn't put stuff in games, and if you didn't adhere to this stuff, I mean, it's funny, like, lol, instead of being able to run over people in Carmageddon, they made them zombies and changed the blood colour. And how a lot of arcade cabinets, so that they could sell them all across the US and Europe, in the chipset, you can change the colour of the blood, and you can turn off certain effects, so that you could make one chipboard for, like House of the Dead. You can change the blood into a multitude of colours on the chipset. And this was so that they could sell the arcade cabinet anywhere, US, Europe, wherever, and you could just play it. But if you didn't adhere to those, your game did not get sold. Because if you couldn't physically sell it in stores, it did not exist. Yeah. There was a time when we had genuine censorship in video games. And we've come up with some fun... There's fun stories from it now. But, right now, we have an insane amount of creative freedom, and it's wonderful. Sorry, I apologise for bringing in the serious topics here.
No, it's a good topic, and it's an important thing, because I think people people get up in arms about, well, the social justice. Oh, I don't know why I'm from the north.
Them social justice warriors up at north.
Them bloody social justice warriors. Sling your bloody hook. No, I don't get why people are like. Why is that? How people like they assume there's again like this mysterious like. Like deep state cabal of people who get to decide what goes into a game and what doesn't. And often when stuff gets pulled from a game, there's a good reason for it, dude. Like there's a reason Hot Coffee was not in the final build of San Andreas. There's a reason why they took the reason that Panty Shop was taken out of Skullgirls is the same reason why when they re-released Who Framed Roger Rabbit on DVD and Blu-ray, they painted in panties to Jessica Rabbit because there is a shot on the Laserdisc version where you can pause it and look right up her dress. And when Disney realized that was in there, they went in and they removed it.
Yeah. So one of the things that is that Dr. Pepper. Yeah. So Dr. Pepper is mentioning Ubisoft. So Rainbow Six Siege is going through their current game and removing gambling and skulls.
Yes.
Now, the thing I want to add to that comment is that Dr. P is adding to appeal to the Chinese audience.
Yes.
No, it's to get past the Chinese government censorship.
Yes.
So, I do want to add, if there is a cabal of video game people with cool Bill and Ted shoulder pads and I get in, I'm taking that membership. All right, if that exists and I get invited, I'm going.
If nothing else, you'll look fantastic.
Right?
In terms of the fashion, you'll be on point.
But it's another thing that I want to just, mention while we're continuing this is that if you want to sell your game in China, there is a government board that decides whether or not your game will be sold. That is censorship. And the changing your game to meet those criteria, that is a thing. I don't know.
And sometimes games get censored or changed to meet censorship or like content restrictions in particular countries. Case in point, Resident Evil, which is a Japanese game. The Japanese versions of most Resident Evil games, the "You died" screen doesn't show you being devoured by the zombies. It just cuts to black and says "You died." Like they trim that stuff out. When games like Wolfenstein and Doom get released in Germany, they often have to strip, or any game that has Nazi emblems, that stuff has to get stripped out because of the law against Nazi symbols in Germany. Like Germany, by the way, that's a great law. I approve of that law. And that kind of censorship, I think, is good, and I think there should be more of that kind of censorship elsewhere in the world. But sometimes you have to take stuff out of. Injustice is a good example. The famous Joker gun fatality in the original, not Injustice, sorry, Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe.
Yeah, I know the one you're meaning. Like,
where he had that gun fatality where it's a fake gun that does the bang flag, and then he does a little dance and actually shoots them in the head. And in the American version, when he does the second shot that actually kills them, the camera pans to the right or to the left, so you don't see the person being shot. But in the European release, it doesn't do that. You actively see the kill shot.
Yeah.
And I remember importing the PS3 version of Injustice from the UK. I had a friend like mail it to me because they didn't have region encoding on the disc.
Yeah.
So I got to, I had a version of the game with that fatality in, and then they ended up putting that fatality in Mortal Kombat 9 on the Xbox 360 and the PS3.
Yeah.
It was one of Shang Tsung's fatalities.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't think there's much more for us to delve into on that one. It was a point that I wanted to make that, when we talk about, how Carmageddon had to censor itself, how a lot of these games had to, change their names or tweak their things, like, it was a very, very different time. There's also been some chortling-worthy comments. Rhymes with Moose saying, Simon Pegg in the social justice game censorship cabal, ? Yeah, put that on your Kotaku Dagons. And
no, that's a movie, an Edgar Wright movie.
Yes!
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, social justice gaming cabal.
Done. Just done. Alright, sorry, Sorry, no, you keep talking, you just keep talking. Yeah.
Is it, okay.
Edgar, mate, yeah, I got a good one. No, it's better than the one about the sheep. No, I promise.
You know that new sound you've been looking for?
I got it! Listen to this! Oh, Rhymes and Moose says the title of it would be The Gamer Good.
Oh, I love it. Sorry, I've got a phone call coming in. Hang
on.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
Hello. Oh, hi. Hi, Edgar. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. No, I don't know why he keeps calling you either. No. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he looks a bit like Simon, but yeah. I mean, I just bring it up every now and then to kind of make him feel good. Yes, it's mostly the hair. Yeah. Yeah. I've got to go. I'm on the stream. Yeah, I'm live now. Yeah. In front of some. Yeah, there's people watching. It's 47. They seem okay. But none of them have said any bad words in the chat yet. So. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna. Okay. I got. All right. I'm gonna. I gotta go. Edgar. I gotta go. Okay. Okay. Bye. Bye. Edgar, I've got to go. I'm just gonna go. Sorry. He doesn't know how to end a phone call. He's bad. He's so bad at phone calls.
These are actual tears. I've just been trying not to cackle laughing over here. Oh, I am so glad we got you over here today, dude. I'm so glad.
It's good to be here.
J Crips immediately screams bad word in chat. Oh, wow.
Okay, so my girlfriend is watching the stream, by the way. Hi, Mandy. She's sending me texts, and she's lambasting me now for not putting my phone on silent. I'm gonna do that now.
Oh.
I love you, Mandy. You're wonderful.
And now the chat's all like, "Hi, Mandy."
Anyway.
Yeah. So jumping back, I'm trying to think of some other kind of like classic British teams we could learn from, and.
Well, I do think we could probably talk about Ocean a little. They did a ton of stuff in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Like home versions of games like Rainbow Island, Island Story. They got the Rainbow Island is interesting because they got the license to release it for the NES in the UK, even though there was already a home version in the US, and they did their own port anyway, even though they could have just slapped the other one on a cartridge. And then they Ocean Software, as well as doing arcade licenses, they got licenses to a lot of movies like RoboCop 3, Dennis the Menace, the American one, not the British one.
Yeah, the difference between that has continued to mess with me for this.
Oh God, yeah. I'm not even kidding. There is a little burger place not far from where I used to live, further north in Los Angeles, that has one of those like gumball pinball machines where you put like a quarter in and then a gumball bounces down, but you can play pinball with it, and if it falls out, you just have it. But they've got Dennis the Menace, like the British one with the big hair and the red and black stripy top, and Nash is there. There are stickers of him all over this thing, and I don't think anyone who's ever set foot in this burger place.
Oh God! So
the
owners of the store bought a Dennis the Menace machine, expecting something completely different, and were utterly confused when this Beano-infused abomination appeared in their restaurant. They're like, "The hell is this?" Because that's how they sounded in my head. Who's this asshole with a dog?
What? Now, I do have a quick question for you. What accent was that you were trying just there? I mean, I know mine's not great. My American accent's not fantastic.
I don't know. I'm just a hoodada.
Y'all.
When in doubt, Eddie Izzard. That's my defensive move. And so yeah, I'd love to talk about Ocean. Contract and a couple of people are asking about Bullfrog, and I think we can do the Bullfrog conversation after, because
there's a big old conversation that we can have about Bullfrog.
And there's a lot of
Bullfrog leading into Lionhead.
Yeah. Actually, hang on. Let's do Ocean first, because if I start telling Bullfrog and Lionhead stories, we're taking this train off road, and you shouldn't take trains off road. That's not where trains go.
There's a reason trains stay on a track.
Yeah. As Fat Man Scoop says, if that train comes off the track, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
He did say that. He's on record as having said that. You know what I miss? I'm like the game. I remember seeing the Ocean logo on the. I remember The Amiga 500 that we got was the Cartoon Classics pack, so it came with like Captain Planet and the Planeteers and Lemmings, but it also came with Bart versus the Space Mutant, which was an ocean game. So I remember that logo appearing at the beginning. They also did, by the way, and this is a game that not a lot of people have heard of or remember, Whizball. Like, I fucking loved Whizball. And it was one of my mum's favorite games. I really enjoyed it. You just played as a green ball collecting like magic soup. Yeah. I think I barely remember the game. It was such a good game. Anyway, Ocean Software.
Yeah. Also, Sneaky got my my Eddie Izzard reference there, so I'm very happy. I'm just a powerless vacuum. So Greenfire, we'll come back into your questions in a little bit. So
just as a heads up for you, your audio is cutting out very occasionally for me, just like for like a split second. I don't know if it's affecting the stream because no one else is commenting on it, but I lose you for like a split second every like 30 to 60 seconds.
You're probably missing just maniacal cackling, so it's fine.
That's probably it, yeah.
Getting back to it. So, I mean, Ocean was stonking. One of the things that I feckin' loved about it was a lot of the Game Boy games they brought across were so good. Batman vs. the Joker, Bart, Escape from Camp Krusty. Those were a huge, huge part of my childhood.
The Addams Family as well. Like, that Addams Family game, Super Nintendo and the Genesis.
So much better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, I did a port center about it because when they... Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt for the Super Nintendo was a sequel, kind of, to that game. But the NES version of Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt was just the original Addams Family game with the sprites swapped out.
Oh. See, I mean, from the stuff you've done on Port Center, like, I feel we could get into the weeds on those kind of things for ages. And quick shout out to Tenwin. Another ginger, be careful, you might open a black hole. We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Wraith saying Sports Interactive deserves a mention. Still going strong, still doing their thing. I mean, so Sports Interactive aren't really a great... Sports Interactive are a bunch of lovely people. I've met them. Miles Jacobson, who runs Sports Interactive, is a legend. Last time I saw him, we were at a really obnoxiously boring, wanky industry party, and he saunters up to me and goes, "Hey!" And he's just got a bottle of vodka in one hand. Like, he's not having any of this. And the thing is, he remembered me and Craig from when we did the stupid videos for Sega, and he has always treated me like... And I don't know shite about football, and he's always treated me like an excellent person, so I just... Yeah. But... Sports Interactive, they hit the nail on the head with Football Manager, and they've continued to make Football Manager and keep it going for an inordinate amount of time. So,
yeah, they're doing all right. Yeah, those games come out every year. They're owned by Sports Interactive are owned by Sega now.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, by the way, about Sports Interactive's acquisition by Sega was them adding the faceless manager character to the PC version of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform.
Why would you bring that up?
Because it's amazing.
Everyone here is going to be sick of this. Okay, so you know the 3 characters they added?
Yeah.
So they added 3 Sega characters, along with... so the PC port of Sonic and Friends All-Star Racing Transformed. They added the TF2 team, so the Pyro, the Heavy, and the Scout, I think, as a little transforming car. They added the Manager from Football Manager, not Championship Manager, don't make that mistake. They added General Winter from Company of Heroes.
Cool.
Do you want to know who else they added?
Go on.
Me. I am Willimus, the Roman soldier in a Sonic game.
What the actual?
It is my face and my voice. It was a thing I did. I was told to by my boss. We did it during Rome 2's campaign, so I was doing a million things at once, so I didn't really think about it. But yeah.
Oh my word.
I'm canon. That's a thing that happened.
You exist in the Sonic universe.
Yeah, Willimus is a Sonic universe character.
How do you feel about that?
I didn't realise what that was really until a ways after it was released, and now I think it's the most bizarre thing. Every now and then I'll just get a DM from a friend being like, "What the actual effing F is this? Why are you in my game?" And I'm like, ah. That's the extent of my fame. But it's such a bizarre. It's just bizarre.
God, that is you. I'm sorry, I've never actually seen this character. I just googled it, and dear lord.
Yeah, and it's me doing a very excessively English voice. Because it was thought that, when a lot of people think of like the Roman Empire when it's portrayed in cinema, it's always English people because we're the villains, obviously.
Yeah, it's people like God, why am I blanking on his name? The one guy from the film. You know the guy from that film? The film he was in. He was that one guy from that film.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
And with that intro, with that thing. Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah,
that film.
you know the guy.
Yeah.
The guy from the film. The one guy. It's that guy from the film. Russell Crowe. There we go. Like I always think of Russell Crowe as my name is Decimus Amarius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife. And that's when I called claims direct. Like, that's I can't take credit for that joke because I think it's dead ringers like 15 years ago. But
it's
like
still good.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still do. I said you buy one, you get one free. I do that.
You buy one, you get one
I
free.
said you buy one, you get one free. How to tell if someone grew up in the UK and couldn't sleep at night.
I was always a fan of smooth on the inside, crunchy on the outside.
Dime Bar, the surprising alternative to armadillos. Yes. Oh, fake it. Who is that? That's Vanderbeest throwing 100 cheer at us saying, Willimus emote? Question mark?
Question mark.
Also, I didn't get a chance to do the faffing this morning that I wanted to do because I was being lazy and repeatedly rewatching that Pop Stars video that League of Legends put out. But if I think it's 1,000 bits triggers the Welsh text-to-talk voice. So, yeah, if we suddenly get interrupted by a Welshman, you know what happened.
You know what? It could be my dad.
Could be your dad.
From Beyond the Grave. He's dead now, but he is Welsh. He's so Welsh, in fact. I have a posthumous award on my wall up here from the Welsh League of Southern California, awarded to my dad about a year after he died, for honorary recognition for bardic achievements. I don't know what bardic achievements are, but I'm assuming that means that he was very good at using the cantrip Vicious Mockery.
I've never heard a sentence that that spawned so many questions, so many excellent questions. Holy Toledos!
Yeah, well, my dad moved here in '97. He moved here and he met my stepmother and fell in love, married, not necessarily in that order. And my dad was very, very pagan, so he was very involved in I'm not a religious person at all, but my parents were pagan, both my mother and father, and my dad did. He had kind of like a small media empire. He wrote and published books on the subject. He did a podcast. He did live streams. When he had a heart attack in 2012, he survived that. But I remember we were flooded with thousands and thousands of emails from people around the world who had read his books and watched his shows. And
that's super cool. Well,
yeah.
Well, cheers to him.
Yeah.
I'm not quite at the drinking booze stage yet today, but yeah.
I've got a dribble of Mountain Dew in a San Diego Doctor Who convention.
I've got the last.
Bad as I can get.
I've got the last drebs of some tea in my bad people mug.
You're gonna have to get some more tea.
I am gonna get some more tea, and I will do that in just a second. So before we careened off the rails with you buy one you get one free, and
I said you buy one you get one free.
I said you buy one you get one free. All right, let's do it. Let's do Bullfrog, the tale, which is like, if Bullfrog isn't an Icarus story, I don't know what is.
They didn't just fly too close for the sun. They were aiming.
Yeah, they both.
So many great games. Bullfrog started off with Populous, right? Like that was them.
Bear with me just a second. Isocrid, firstly, thank you for 1,000 bits. That is awesome. That is 10 of your American dollars in Welsh.
Oh, wow, that's money.
Did someone say interrupting bits? So thank you kindly.
And Shayat as well with another 1,000.
Oh no, is there another coming?
Yeah, it's coming in if it hasn't already. It's in the chat.
It's not Terry's.
There it is.
It's mine.
It's not Terry's. It's mine.
God, Dawn French did those commercials. My sister's name was Terry, so she loved those commercials.
Oh, I'm sure they did not make for a terrible time at all.
Dr. Pepper Pepsi pun guy.
Yeah,
Monty Python did have it.
Formerly as Dr. Pepper Pepsi pun guy. Oh no, Dr. Pepsi fun guy, I believe. Oh, I should crit with this one is silent.
This one is silent and just as deadly.
Anyway, so yeah, there were a couple of Monty Python games. We'll get back to Bullfrog in just a minute, because I do want to touch on this very quickly. Because there was a Monty Python's Flying Circus game for the Virgin. You know, the guys that made The Lion King. Weird little game that had almost nothing to do with Monty Python whatsoever. And then they did a Meaning of Life video game, and that was basically like an FMV game, and they did a couple of them.
I think I played the Meaning of Life one because it was weird. I also played a bunch of Peter Gabriel's point-and-click games. They were weird as heck. He had his own dev studio. He made like 3 games. It was weird. Peter Gabriel, everybody. Sorry, you were saying. I apologise.
That was it. No, I just wanted to point out that there were a few Monty Python games. There were at least 2. And I'm sure that they did an offer where if you buy one, you get one free.
I said you buy one, you get one free!
It's very easy to set you off. The ads that... we will get back to Bullfrog, I promise. But I remember the ITV Digital with the Johnny Vegas and the monkey. Monkey!
Oh, monkey!
Get up, monkey!
Get us a cuppa!
Yeah, and they moved over to PG Tips, people bought the monkey.
Also, Sneaky, thank you kindly for the 500 bits. Guys, Isacrid, Chiat, and Isacrid again, thank you all. I do need to say, thank yous. That's what keeps us doing this madness. Yeah. You enabled the madness and the reference to Johnny Vegas on telly. Is Johnny Vegas even still alive?
He did an episode of Red Dwarf last year.
I am amazed. He must have got the secret to whatever Brian Blessed has, whatever mystical orb keeps Brian Blessed alive.
There's an amulet in a cave on a beach somewhere that's being protected by 3 mystic robes.
Yeah.
And if you gaze into the hood, you see no face but 2 gleaming red eyes.
Yeah.
And they are the keepers of the blessed.
The blessed one.
Yes.
Hello. So let's cast our minds back to a group of plucky young game devs centered around a hair-thinning, gangly individual by the name of Molyneux.
Yes.
And now, were Bullfrog indie before they went to EA? That's the thing I can never remember.
I think they must. I don't know who published their. I'm going to look up who.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same.
Their early stuff.
Now, it's worth saying to those of you young'uns, back in the day. The only way to acquire games was by physical copies. So while you could independently develop a video game, you needed a publisher. And in those days, publishers' major action was distribution and printing. They would print the box of your game and distribute it across the world, which is where that kind of symbiotic relationship came from. Or, well, parasitic, depending on your opinions.
Yeah. EA published their early stuff. And they were merged into EA proper in 2001, but they were not. Excuse me, that was horrible.
Nailed it.
EA, thank you. I've been practicing. EA purchased, according to Wikipedia, a quote significant share of Bullfrog in 1994.
Okay.
And acquired the studio outright in '95.
So that was. So I guess Populous was their first big success.
Yeah.
And I guess, so what, 94, so that's after Populous 2, and, that's just after Syndicate. Yeah, so...
Yeah, Syndicate and Theme Park. And Magic Carpet, which no one remembers.
Oh, good old Magic Carpet. I remember the music being cracking, but I remember hating the game.
Oh, the music was great. They did a sequel as well, which I did not know existed.
See, we're all learning today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was a plucky group of Guildford game developers. I can't remember if Molyneux was privately wealthy beforehand or if he just made his cash from that, because it was a time when it was possible to go into that with now.
Yeah.
And they did very well. They were acquired by EA, and that's when the first round of friction started.
Molyneux made his, according to Wikipedia, he made his in the early 80s by distributing and selling floppy disks which contained games for Atari and the Commodore 64.
Sounds a lot like piracy to me.
Yeah, distributing floppy disks.
Also,
smuggling them across state lines.
Majestic Potato is asking, is this the talk show everyone keeps talking about? This is the talk show where the gingers keep talking about, because we're both ginger. Yeah. Yep. I'm so sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm a redhead English person.
Welcome to my show.
Hi. Welcome to... No, if it's going to be super unprofessional, it's going to be like this. It's going to be... Hi, welcome to... This is my Twitch stream. I'm gonna play a bit of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So let me... I just got to figure. I can't remember. I put the. Okay, so all right. So here we. All right. So I've got this. I'm just gonna start the game now. Don't forget to ring that bell if you like my videos.
Smash that subscribe button. Smash
that subscribe button, and don't forget to you can Venmo my mum, and she will forward money to me. And don't forget to check out my SoundCloud for Smash Mouth songs that I have taped off of the radio. Like.
This is what Majestic Potato. We were doing so good. We were doing so well.
This is all your fault.
You were too majestic for this land. 1v1 me on SoundCloud. Right. So, Bullfrog indie team. So Molyneux made his money prior and had started developing some really curious little titles.
Yeah.
And he basically kind of got a lot of firsts. So if you look at like Syndicate, that was one of the first examples of someone going all in on the kind of the Blade Runner cyberpunk in that kind of era. There wasn't a lot of competition. Shadowrun wasn't available in the UK. Like FASA just did not have that kind of share. You could probably acquire it if you knew people, but again, and Populous was a stonkingly good success, and then Populous 2 continued. Back in the day where sequels were always better because the technological jumps and the advancement in budget meant that your sequel was always better.
Populous was the game that is kind of credited with inventing
the god genre.
The god game genre, which I think now we just call like that's just strategy games really. I think that's kind of where that genre has kind of shifted towards games like Black and White and Civilization.
So Theme Park happened. Theme Park was a big deal. Now, when did they split for Lionhead? That's the. I want to get the date right on this one.
Peter Molyneux left the company in.
His middle name's Douglas. That's so weird.
Peter Douglas Molyneux. Molyneux, by the way, is a combination of two French words. Molly meaning it's of a combination of the words mono meaning one, and poly meaning many, and new meaning no. So his last name translates as many one no.
Okay. So
that's a lie I've just told, but we're going to pretend it's true.
It's way better than anything anyone else was going to come up with. So, in 1997 is when he split and made Lionhead. So right after Dungeon Keeper and Theme Hospital.
Yes.
He just went, nah, we're out. So that means like Populous, Theme Aquarium, Dungeon Keeper 2, Theme Park World, Theme Park Inc., and then Quake 3 Revolution.
Yeah, which I guess they did the PS2 port of Quake 2 before they were shut down by EA.
So it's one of those, it's one of those good guy, bad guy stories at this point. Like, plucky indie joins big, evil publisher, makes some creative things, and then due to creative differences, they left. One of the stories that I believe Peter's told this on camera more than once was the EA marketing for Dungeon Keeper. They ended up having it in an S&M club.
Yeah.
So they'd done the launch party. They invited a bunch of press, and then they invited a bunch of people dressed as dominatrix into this party. And so you've got, game devs in t-shirts and journos, and then a bunch of people in full leather with whips and a free bar.
there is no group of human beings less well suited to be in the same room as dominatrix is as your average t-shirt and jeans wearing game developer.
Indeed. And I, as one of those individuals, I would not have been equipped for that environment. And that's okay. You know, we live in different times, but that kind of clash of like studio culture and publisher culture is one of the things that I personally believe led to the split. So, picture the scene. It's Lionhead Studios, which in this day and age would have been, you know, entirely funded by digital publishing, but that wasn't an option back then. Yeah. So yeah, they break out on their own, and they out of the gate did Black and White. What was it? Black and White, the movies, and something else. There was a bunch of projects that they spooled up, and that they never. They
did Fable as
yeah.
well.
Oh,
like those were the big three, like Fable, Black and White, and the movie.
Yeah. Well,
I to this day like genuinely enjoy.
Oh, sorry.
Fun game.
Oh, was that the movies? There was a tiny cutout. So yeah, the movies is still stonking. So little indie team, and the curse of Fable is what I like to call this story, because so they had success with Black and White, and so as you really shouldn't do, they spooled up a shite load of projects, and a few of them were for the upcoming Microsoft console, the Xbox. There was a game called BC, which I wouldn't be able to say whether or not I played it because of NDA, but it was referenced in some video gaming magazines, and boy, it sure did look fun.
Subtle.
Yeah, but sadly never saw the light of day. One of the reasons that I can only guess and surmise, and by no means know, was that Fable was never meant to be an in-house Lionhead project. This was, with the mad amount of projects they were spooling up simultaneously, Fable was originally started by a team called Big Blue Box, which were a satellite studio of Lionhead. And the reason I bring this up is because this would eventually be the success that would consume them outright. And this has been documented in write-ups. Fable was originally going to be a launch title for the original Xbox.
Yeah.
It did not come out at launch.
Yeah, that did not happen.
No, it did not come out a year after launch. It came out a good long while after launch.
Took them some time.
It did. And Big Blue Box doesn't exist anymore, but Lionhead did. And one could extrapolate that Big Blue Box did not achieve their goals on time and was consumed by the rest of Lionhead, and then it became a Lionhead title. But despite all the failures in delivering on time, Fable was still, it's still sold inordinate numbers of copies. And I need another classic soundtrack because I had a little. I must apologise for the break in the story there because I was like, we need another classic retro soundtrack, and the first thing that popped up on the list, bloody Shadow of the Beast. I'm like,
perfect.
It's found me. It's gotten scent of my fear. It's heard. Christ in a bin bag. So yeah, Fable 2 was developed by the entirety of Lionhead Studios, and at this point, like, the other titles that Lionhead had been developing started dropping off. Like, there was Black and White and Black and White Queer Trials, but Black and White 2 just didn't have the same quality threshold that the others did, and there was never a Black and White 3. But Fables, again, a project that Microsoft had invested quite heavily in, saw, Fable 2 sold gangbusters again on the 360, and then leading into Fable 3, and, well, we know how this song and dance ends towards the end.
It doesn't go well for Lionhead.
Yeah.
They closed, 2.5 years ago now?
Yeah. At some point between, I believe it was between 2 and 3, they were acquired by Microsoft as a first-party studio. And, also, Baron Sheep's going to work. So, Baron! See you later!
Toodaloo.
Right, let me find a... So, yeah, sorry, you were saying, I apologise.
While you're doing that, sorry, I've actually forgotten what I was talking about because I sucked into a Wikipedia article, but there's an annoying bug with Windows 10 right now.
Go on.
Where it says your Windows is not activated. So I have Activate Windows in my lower right-hand corner. This is a known bug. It's been reported by a number of outlets. It's just an issue with the Windows 10 activation servers, because they check in with Microsoft every few hours to make sure that you're running a legit copy of Windows.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're telling people like myself who have Windows 10 Pro that they have a license for Windows 10 Home, and people who have a license for Windows 10 Home that they have a license for Windows 10 Pro. So a lot of people are being told that their Windows is not legit when it in fact is. So I'm having to look at this stupid message because I can't get rid of it because it's semi-translucent window.
I'm so sorry. So the soundtrack I've gone for us is the Contra Hard Corps soundtrack. Contra Hard Corps being arguably the best of the Contra series. And a great example of the differentiation between the Japanese and English-speaking markets. The Contra series is actually easier in Japan, where you have 3 hits per life. However, it was seen as a niche title in Europe and America, which is why they kept Contra's original one-hit death, because they believed that was what the core audience of Contra fans wanted. That's a fact! That's a hot fact!
Yeah.
Hot and fresh.
I can't remember the last time I played a Contra. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think I played one of the NES.
Okay.
I haven't played a Contra game in a very, very long time.
I got hands on with I think it's the SNES Mini, and it had Contra on there. Was it?
Yeah. Did you get the American one or the European?
I didn't get one. It was the European one because we were playing it in. Have you been to the loading bars in the UK? The gaming bars they got around London.
I have not. No.
They opened one in Brighton, which is where I finally got hands on.
I'm very lucky. Because the Super Nintendo Classic Mini and the NES Classic.
Yeah.
Those are designed. They're nostalgia devices. They're designed to kind of tickle your nostalgia.
And they do.
And they're great. But I figured if I'm going to have my nostalgia tickled, I want to have it tickled by the Super Nintendo I had as a kid.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, Ashley Day, who worked for Nintendo now, I think he works at Team 17. I don't know why I said I think, because I know he works at Team 17. Offered to pick one up for me and mod it so that it would have more Super Nintendo games on
it.
So I sent him the money, which, by the way, after shipping and everything, I paid twice as much for this Super Nintendo Classic Mini that I would have got if I'd bought an American one. But it is worth it because the buttons are the right shape, they've got the right colors, the system looks proper, the menu interface is the right colors. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. I think that is entirely necessary.
It's essential, I would say.
Okay, so I guess one of the things is I want to... the reason why I wanted to tell these stories today, the reason why I wanted to chat with you on these things is I think a lot of them really... They apply so much. Now, this is a bugbear of mine, and I don't expect anyone to come with me on this opinion train, but I get very irate when gaming as an industry is compared directly to film and television, because they're very different mediums, and from an industry standpoint, they've grown up in very different ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I have been told across pub chats or in business meetings, well, X happened in cinema in this time frame, so this is what we can expect in gaming. And I've never... No. It's not.
There's so many reasons why that's... I mean, if nothing else, the key difference between gaming developing as a technology compared to when film and television was developing is we have the internet now. Like, even taking into consideration the difference between the two creative mediums, there wasn't an internet when TV and film were still young. Like, so then, 20, 30 years into that industry.
Yeah.
Like... that the internet has completely changed the direction of the games industry in the same way that it would have done if the internet had existed in the 1920s.
Hells yeah.
That's like a big thing. But also, I think one of the reasons people keep drawing that comparison, and this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, is that games, despite the fact we've had games like Portal and Half-Life 2 that have done a very good job of telling the story of a video game in a way that you couldn't do in a movie or a TV show, we still use cinematic language in a lot of video games. We have cutscenes where you have the letterboxing coming in from the top and the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
That's how story is being imparted. It's an interactive medium And for a lot of storytelling, for some reason, we shift to this non-interactive kind of passive way of telling the story. Whereas you play something like Half-Life 2, I remember a lot of complaints about Half-Life 2 being, well, where's the story? And the answer is, it's in the environment. If you take time to listen to characters' conversations, to look at newspaper clippings on the wall, you can see the story. Left 4 Dead is a brilliant example of a game where the story is entirely environmental.
Hells yeah.
I love, like, playing through a Valve game with the director's commentary on is fascinating because you see how much thought and effort has gone into, like, telling the story through the game world. Being like, well, here is a cutscene. The cutscene at the beginning of the first Left 4 Dead game isn't there for story. It's there to show you how the main zombies work, what their music cues are, and what their attacks are, and how you can counter them.
Yep.
That's what that cutscene is for.
It's a tutorial, not which is so good. And so that's the reason why I love telling these stories, is we can learn from ourselves. I mean, Lionhead's story is a tale of caution. Like, maybe don't take that big publishing deal. Maybe don't dance with the devil. Don't spool up 5 projects simultaneously when you have one setup. And yes, Isocrid, you did hear the Konami logo in the background, back from the Konami Golden Era. Yes, you're welcome. And the story with Team 17 that we can take is that you have to grow up with your company.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's something that's been brought over from, like, tech startup culture, but the idea that your studio culture is this, sacrosanct core that, if you are all about, I'm going to say it because I'm going to do the 90s thing, like, if you're all about sport, beer and boobies, everyone on board must be all about sport, beer and boobies. This is our core doctrine, our studio culture, beer and boobies. And that's not sustainable, because not only does your company grow and change, your company culture can become more than it is now. It can become better than it is right now. And that's what we've seen with Team 17.
Yeah. I worked for a company 4 or 5 years ago now. It was actually the company I was working for when I first met, that I won't name because we did not part on good terms. But they were kind of transitioning from being a smaller startup to being a more corporate entity. And they were trying, it was so important to them to kind of hold on to their culture. But that culture, firstly, doesn't scale up. You can't take a small culture of, like, we're going to have Nerf gun wars and there are beanbags everywhere and help yourself to candy from the fridge. You can't take that and scale that up when you go from having, like, 30 employees to 300. Like, that doesn't scale. But that, for some reason, that was something they really wanted to preserve. And the end result is you end up with a culture that doesn't feel organic anymore, and it doesn't feel... it stops being here's a small group of people who this is how they work and this is how they are during the day. It goes from that to feeling like an artifice, like it's covering up, particularly when you're transitioning to something much more corporate, as the company I worked for did. It stopped feeling like a family, but they were still trying to pretend. You can't lay off nearly 100 people and still be talking about we're family, we are a close-knit group of, we love every one of you. 100 of you have just gone out the door and we're never going to see you again. Bye, peace out. Like, that doesn't work.
And it's something that I've also experienced firsthand, also in a company that I don't want to name, but it's so important to have that discussion. Well, admittedly a different studio, but a problem I had was that being the person who had to talk with the outside world, being the person who had to take products and represent them, someone's got to be the grown-up, and if your studio culture doesn't support that, it's very difficult. And what we're seeing is that what we saw is that Team 17, not only, I mean, they managed to survive a few missteps, and they managed to survive a changing industry very well, but they managed to change with it. And a group of people that I love, the guys who made Uplink, Infogrames is the publisher. Darn it, I always get these guys mixed up.
Uplink, I'm going to Google it quickly.
While
I was looking,
please.
One of the interesting things, it was Introversion did Uplink.
Yes.
One of the interesting things that came out of the demise of Lionhead, we got who went on to make Little Big Planet.
Oh yes, and they got out. Before Oh no, they got out after the acquisition. And
after the acquisition, before Lionhead was closed.
And now they've also been voted one of the best places to work in the UK, which is really cool for them.
Nice. And they have a new thing coming out called Dreams, which is kind of basically like a game creation game for kind of like Little Big Planet, but on a large scale.
Yeah.
For what's it coming out for? The PS4? I want to look it up now.
Probably one of those. They got a good deal with Sony, but I really hope that does well because. Like, taking that Mario Maker mentality to the large scale, like, yo, we're all about that. But, yeah, one of the things that's been really interesting is seeing that team... Oh, what is the name of the studio? You just said it, and I completely dropped out of my head.
Which one? Lionhead, Introversion?
Little Big Planet team. They are...
Media Molecule.
Media Molecule. So, Media Molecule has kind of... Media Molecule has managed to keep their core values and scale, but...
Yeah.
Their core values has been both very heartfelt, very professional, like something that can scale. The Nerf Wars does not scale.
There's no way. Like, I remember the building we were in when I joined the company. Very small, like this brick warehouse. Like it used to be. Like people used to ship packages out of here, and now this is where the customer service department is. And then the company acquired the building behind us, and we were in this larger warehouse with like this sheet roof metal that if it rained, it would have sounded. When it did rain, because it did rain occasionally in like November, December, because LA's garbage weather. If that was all you could hear, which thank God we were only dealing with customer service stuff by email, not by phone, because we wouldn't be able to hear our customers. But we were still in this huge warehouse space that they put carpet down in some places and set up some cubicles. And then there's people like trying to start epic Nerf gun fights across this huge warehouse, and there's occasional arcs of like Braveheart, just arcs of Nerf bullets like coming across the warehouse. It's like this space is too big. There's too many people just trying to work. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Though,
and then they let a bunch of people.
Because I do enjoy the creativity, and I don't want to shite on all of that.
Absolutely. I love working in a place where, like, when I worked at Disney, we were a fairly small department, and we would frequently take breaks to just go off and play Rock Band, and I love that.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's necessary.
We were a small department.
What used to happen is, for those of us who are either working late or... Because me and Craig did a YouTube show for Total War, and late at night, while we're waiting for, like, stupidly long renders, because, dude, we were doing a show in Sony Vegas, like, those renders... Oh. It was great for variable frame rates, but the render times, oh boy. But yeah, so we'd play one shot, one kill Nerf Wars. Everyone gets one bullet, and you split up amongst the different floors. So you're in like stairwells, doing it like CS:GO style, like. And I even got like one of those Buzzbee ones that looked like the N7 rifle, but it had a scope and stuff on. So I'm just like sneaking around. Oh, it was so good.
That's awesome.
A bit, and stuff like that was great. But during the day, CA grew too large to be able to have those, and so. Actually, CA was not one of the companies that I was bashing on when I was saying there, because, they grew up as a studio. Like, Nerf fights and screaming at each other was not valid during work hours. Lunchtimes were fucking gay. And, yeah, Craig and I actually got banned from playing Unreal Tournament in the office because we get too into it. And we had this ongoing tournament where we'd pick shit daytime TV shows and compete against them. And it was during the Bergerac versus Hetty Wainthropp Investigates match that we got a talking to, and we were told we were not allowed to do this. For the record, as Team Bergerac, I wrecked shit, and I won that so hard. Bergerac don't feck around, alright? Except for when he does, but yeah.
Yeah. The thing I remember most about Bergerac, and this is definitely a tangent. Do you remember that show that Channel 4 did called, it was Banzai? It was like this fake Japanese betting show.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
And they had Joe Pasquale like running across a field towards the camera saying Bergerac, and they had him saying over and over again, but then they slowed it down, and they were taking like place your bets now on how long it's going to take him to say Bergerac 5 times. Like, that's whenever I hear Bergerac, all I can hear is Joe Pasquale saying it in his squeaky voice, and then them slowing it down so it sounds like Bergerac. Like, that's where my brain goes with it. It's the dumbest thing.
I loved Banzai, and that is... Yeah, I'd love to find a way to do something in this day and age of that at a similar caliber without the implied racism. It was a different time. It's a bit weird going back and watching some of Banzai now.
Yeah, they did. There was this recurring bit with Mr. Shake Hands Man. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, it was so good.
I know him. he at a bunch of the Doctor Who conventions that I go to. His name is Tadao, and he's a wonderful human being.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah, and he's an actual real person who's also appeared. He was in the Inspector Gadget. He was in the 1990s Zilla.
Okay.
And he did an episode of Diagnosis Murder.
Nice, good old Dr. Death.
Oh yes.
Yeah, honestly, you see that guy coming round your ward, just jump out the window. You got a better chance of survival.
That's the thing. Like Angela Lansbury, pretty confident.
She killed them all. She fucking did it.
She was traveling around murdering people and getting away with it. And then people were going to the hospital where, Dick Van Dyke was just straight up killing people.
Yeah, just stone cold.
Yeah.
I don't have it to quick, but one of my greatest Photoshop achievements was taking the gorgeous key art from the re-release of Hitman, not the one coming up, the previous one, just Hitman, where he's going down the escalator and shopping Angela Lansbury into it perfectly. Because she did it. Like, there is going to be there's going to be a Netflix original series in a few years where we find out that probably Angela Lansbury and the show Murder, She Wrote was about murdering people. Like, all the fake bodies turn out to be real corpses that were killed throughout the film. It's going to stack levels.
It's like Peter Falk in Columbo.
Yeah! Except for he solved real crimes.
Yeah, Columbo was great. Well, they did... Well, I say they did. They haven't done this. And I don't know if I'm...
Yeah.
Friend Dino. Dino Andrade, who's a voice actor, he's all over the place in World of Warcraft. He was the original Scarecrow in Batman Arkham Asylum.
Oh, nice!
Really cool dude. He's one of my best friends. He's a brother to me. He just got married on Halloween.
Of course.
Married his longtime partner Casey. He and she got married on Halloween. Wish I could have been there, but anyway, he's a huge Columbo fan.
Yeah,
and wrote a spec script for a project that would have basically involved him playing Peter Falk, actually Peter Falk, but in this fictionalized Peter Falk solving a murder situation. So good. I really hope something comes of that because it is pretty amazing.
So jumping back into chat, I just want to give a shout out to Contract, who Contract was saying earlier up that they did testing on Little Big Planet 1 and 2. So
nice.
Represent QA. I actually cut my teeth. My very first games industry job was back when Lionhead would let you sign up for a week's testing. So yeah, Andy Robson had me as his little Padawan for a bit, and then I got a summer job as John T. Barnes' minion, and I think I was probably the most obnoxious little shit he ever had to handle. And John T's now at Bungie, and I'm now yelling at things on the internet, so go figure!
Small world.
Very small world. Contract was saying that Contract 16 is literally their console assignment from Sony back in the day.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Prolo said someone else with Uni did that Lionhead gig. It was real good.
It was you, in fact. You know.
All along, it was I, Prolo. I'm a time-traveling ninja. So I tell you what, as we're coming to the we're coming to the 2-hour mark, and we've even gone to Angela Lansbury. So Ben, if it's all right with your good self, if you want to stay and chat with everybody for a little bit longer, I'd love to have you if we've got time.
Yeah.
Then can I leave you with some Q&A with these lovely folks in chat?
While you get a cup of tea?
While I get a cup of tea. So what I'm going to do actually is
I'll let people throw questions at me. I'm happy to answer it.
I'm going to turn on that chat box. I'm going to put it over my stupid face.
Yeah, who needs to look at your ugly mug?
Yeah, so congratulations. You're all going to be doing an impression of me while the BRB needs tea goes on. So
I think what's going to happen is while you're gone, I'm just going to stage a coup to take over the YouTube channel. So it's my YouTube channel.
No one will know. It's the ginger.
No, that's the best part. Any gems that are earned on this channel while you're gone are legally mine.
The fact that you call them gems. I've had so many problems.
Here's the thing. There's another streaming platform called LiveMe, a friend of mine, insanely popular on. And they're called gems there, so that's kind of that's where I default to because, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know what they're called. Anyway, any of those the imaginary currencies, mine legally while you're gone.
Vanderbeest is saying, are they ginger changeable?
Grief.
I love you guys.
I DM a weekly Dungeons and Dragons game. We're playing 5th edition, and my rule is if anyone makes a good pun, they get a point of inspiration. That's the rule.
That's cool. Oh, dude, puns is a skill. Okay, right. So one and all, I'm just going to quickly refresh my teacup, and then we will continue. And then if you want to trade out, and with whatever time zone appropriate, excuse my tea burps, time zone appropriate beverage that you would need, then we can do that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be back in just a second, everybody. I'm sure there's no way this can go wrong.
This is going to go very, very well. So yeah, I am ready and willing to take your questions. Throw your question. Favorite Monty Python film? Hey Will, you are also a ginger twat. Marvelous. Dr. Pepper asks what my favorite Monty Python film is. Actually, it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. For me, I don't know if it was the first Monty Python film that I ever saw, but it's the one that is, to me, it's the most enjoyable. And they put out I think it was a 40th anniversary Blu-ray a couple of years ago that has a Q&A with the surviving Python members, and John Oliver is the moderator. It was a really, really fun interview that they did. Dorka Jahas Geimrich. I'm sure I'm mangling that name, but that's half the fun. I wish you two were on different sides of the same room so that Ben could get up and walk over to the screen. Yeah, that would be good. Will's in Seattle and I am in Los Angeles, which I love living in LA. I do not like the weather. It's too sunny. I miss the rain. Like, I would love to live in Seattle for the rain alone. But there's too many things in LA that I like. My friends are here. I have some family that live nearby. My girlfriend lives here. My computer's here. My massive collection of Doctor Who DVD. That is, by the way, that is the entire run of Doctor Who from William Hartnell up to what's his name, Peter Capaldi, and all of the spin-offs, all the BBC produced spin-offs. I'm a huge dork. Yeah, you've seen me in Seattle, Seyden, because I think I'm PAX. That's usually why I'm in. Usually why I'm in Seattle. But yeah, big Monty Python fan. I grew up watching the movies. I didn't get to see much of Flying Circus until my late teens, early 20s. But I did grow up watching a lot of British comedy. A tremendous amount of Red Dwarf, Bottom, The Young Ones, stuff like that. Dr. Pepper asks, Ben, what is the average speed of an unladen swallow? Well, obviously the question I have to ask you is African or European. That's kind of a go-to, really. You're setting me up to boot you off the bridge, as it were. Yeah, I got some gems. I have 60 gems, sorry. Listen, hey, this is a shot, because these gems, I don't know that they're not called that. I genuinely don't care at this point, because it's funny to me that Will is upset about it. He's got to pay me those gems, because they go to him, legally, like through the, this is not my channel, so he gets the gems, and then he's got to, I guess, PayPal me. I guess this is my appearance fee. So, yeah, Red Dwarf is probably, like, I also have that on DVD. It is down there. You can probably just make out the UK DVDs there. I love Red Dwarf. It's my other favourite TV show of all time. That and Doctor Who. And Chalk, fun fact, Chalk was written by Stephen Moffat, who was the showrunner of Doctor Who from 2009 to last year. More sneaky gems, yeah. Keep calling them gems. It's good. Yeah, Craig Charles. Yeah, he does the Funk and Soul on BBC Radio 2, I think, as well. Yeah, and they've been doing more Red Dwarf. Jay Cripps asks who my favourite Doctor is. Patrick Troughton, second Doctor, is my all-time favourite. I love his. He's kind of goofy and fun, but he also has a dark side which I really like. A lot of Matt Smith's performance. I love Matt Smith as well. A lot of what Matt Smith did was informed by Patrick Troughton's performance. So. If you like Matt Smith as the Doctor, definitely go back and check out. God, what stories can I recommend? Tomb of the Cybermen is a good one. Enemy of the World is good. The Web of
Fear. Tea has been boiled.
He's back, and I'm talking about more gems quickly. Because once he sat down in the chair, legally, any gems you say, I hit. Shit.
So I assume a coup has been staged already. I am no longer.
Yeah, I think you owe me $1.50 in gem money.
Done and done, my friend.
You can Venmo me, it's fine.
I'll Venmo your mum.
Oh, it's $1.60. Sorry, my apologies. We were just talking about Doctor Who because I don't know if you can see that, Will, but the top 2 rows of my DVD collection, that's all Doctor Who. That's everything from William Hartnell right up to Peter Capaldi, and then all of the licensed BBC spin-offs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm a dork. I don't know if you knew this about me.
Le shock! Actually, that's the reason why I messaged you is when I was looking for a photo to have to throw you on the show, it immediately came up with you coming out of the TARDIS, and I was like, I don't know if that's a bit too on point.
It's also a bit old. Like that photo is from 2012, and I want to point out I'm coming out of the TARDIS. That's not just a TARDIS. That is Matt Smith's TARDIS.
Oh wow!
And I'm coming out of that holding one of the screen-used phasers from Star Trek Into Darkness.
Okay, that's heckin' cool. That's heckin' cool.
Perk of the job I had at the time. Marvellous job, that. Actually, in 2012, the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, they did a big Scotland week, which kicked off with a big song and dance number.
Okay.
And Craig Ferguson gets into a TARDIS on the set of the show, and then gets out of the TARDIS again in Scotland. And the company I worked for provided the TARDIS for the Los Angeles studio shoot.
Oh,
so
wow.
I got to go to the studio for the day, set up the TARDIS, help with the shoot. I gave the producers some notes on like the visual effect of the TARDIS dematerializing.
That's fucking cool.
I got to have a little conversation with Craig Ferguson. Craig Ferguson's a huge Doctor Who fan. And he was actually in a rock band with Peter Capaldi in the 80s, I think. So I got to have this was pre-Capaldi. This was long before Capaldi was, even a dream casting, let alone before he actually got announced. But we had a lovely, it feels like 20 minutes. It was probably only 5 or 10.
Yeah.
But a lovely conversation about like the history of the show and what the new series was like and what we liked about the old series, all of that fun stuff.
That's way cool. I wish I had the same caliber of Doctor Who knowledge to wax lyrical with you. But it's one of the things I love meeting people who are incredibly passionate about a particular fandom that I don't know about, because it's like getting to see the very best bits like distilled. It's sometimes for me one of the best driving forces to get into a show. And I mean, as with all English people, I saw the old like Doctor Who episodes as and when they were on telly, and then the newer ones. So I watched all of Christopher Eccleston's. Is it Christopher Eccleston? I'm not.
Eccleston was the 9th Doctor when the show came.
I watched the entirety of his run and was blown away by what they could do. And then I saw most of the start match. Who was after?
David Tennant came after Eccleston.
So I saw most of Tennant, and then I saw Matt Smith intermittently, and he was phenomenally good.
I love Matt Smith. So his last season was a little uneven, but the 50th anniversary is my all-time favorite Doctor Who story ever since 1963. And I've seen like pretty much all of it. The only stuff I haven't seen is the stuff that is missing from the BBC archives, because they did like a big purge in the 70s, and there are 97 individual episodes from the 60s that are just gone. There used to be more, but like some have been found overseas or in private collections that have been returned to the BBC. But there were some episodes, like there's an episode from the 60s starring William Hartnell called The Feast of Stephen, which aired on Christmas Day and is arguably the first Doctor Who Christmas special. And because the BBC didn't think they'd be able to sell it internationally, they didn't include it in any international marketing to like overseas networks. So in the 70s, when they did their big purge,
Yeah.
they wiped it. They wiped their master copy. That episode is gone. Even if they find every other missing episode, there will never be a complete set of classic Doctor Who, because episodes like The Feast of Stephen they're just gone forever.
That is fucking cool. Also, for those of you wondering, I have now switched us over from Contra Hard Corps because I completely forgot, and I don't know why I didn't think of this at the time. That game is like 60% boss rush. So it's just one stressful track after another, stacking and stacking. And I was getting PTSD is a little bit of the strong term, but I was getting some like boss flashbacks of when you've beaten 3 forms and you're like, oh, finally this boss is done. And it just goes, ha-ha, fecker, one more form for you. And you're like, but why?
It's like a game made up entirely of the life.
Yes. I guess they just realised with Card Corps that they were so far into the end of the pixel era of those games, they could just do whatever the feck they wanted. A robot jet bike that turns into a running high-speed ostrich, done. Boss with 8 forms, done. Just do it. Oh.
Yeah. Jay Cripps mentioned in the chat, he said, wish John Hurt did more. John Hurt actually did do more Doctor Who.
Oh.
There is a company called
cool.
Big Finish. They do audio plays, and they got John Hurt to do 12 audio stories before he passed away. So there are 4 box sets, each containing 3 individual stories, featuring John Hurt as the Doctor.
As T gives me life. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, do you fancy a tangent upon a tangent? It's not something that we were going to chat about today.
It's tangent inception.
Wow. So, we've not had, in my humble opinion, we have not had a good Doctor Who game.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Now, do you have an opinion as to why you feel that might be?
Yes, the BBC's licensing department is a confederacy of dunces. They have no clue what they are doing.
I mean, you're 100% right. It's just such a wonderful way of putting it.
I've worked for 2 companies that have had to work with the licensing division at BBC Worldwide, and every time it has been it's like pulling teeth trying to get them to do anything.
I want Owen from Games Workshop, the guy who spearheaded their licensing. They're changing their approach to licensing. I want him to just go around to companies and hit them with a shoe until they do it like they do.
Yeah, that's the way. They've got a pretty good system set up.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Doctor Who is when a company does get the license, they make the wrong game with it. Like there was a game that came out 6 years ago called The Eternity Clock.
Okay.
Which is a pretty serviceable, like a 2-player co-op Prince of Persia, like 2D Prince of Persia style platformer.
Yeah.
Which is a great game, but it's not what a Doctor Who game should be. The closest we've ever got to a dream Doctor Who game is I forget. Sumo Digital did a series of adventure games for the BBC that were released for free on the BBC website.
Oh wow!
But they were really they weren't particularly complicated and they were buggy as hell. But like the dream would like the idea.
I'm actually going to make a note of that while we're talking because I didn't.
They're on Steam. You can buy them on Steam.
I didn't even know. And anytime people can tell me about a game or game series that I don't know about, I'm always happy to be impressed.
Yeah. They're not available on the site anymore, and they were never available.
Yeah.
Steam has them for like it's $5 for all 7 games, I think.
Cool.
Which is not bad. 7 like kind of LucasArts-esque adventure games, but you have like direct control of the character. It's okay. It's fine. Like if in a perfect universe, LucasArts in the 90s would have got the Doctor Who license.
Oh god, yes.
Point-and-click adventure game. I think the company that would have been up until this year, the company that would have been perfect with the Doctor Who license would have been Telltale, but they ate themselves alive and now no longer exist. And I don't know who I would give the license to now, to be honest. LucasArts no longer exists. Telltale Games is a shell of its former self.
Yeah, and they've actually been, I believe they've been reacquired by the gentleman that own, when the production company that creates the comics of The Walking Dead now own them.
Skybound, yes.
Yeah, so...
Well, Skybound is finishing The Walking Dead's final season, I don't know.
Oh, they probably picked up. They probably picked up that up at a steal. So
Yeah.
I do not think that we will see another project come out of Telltale. But this, yeah, that is my humble business opinion on it. But yeah,
it's a shame. Like, I mean, I'm one of the 17 people on the planet who read Back to the Future the game. Like, I thought that model worked really well. I think the Walking Dead model or the Batman Telltale series model would have worked well for Doctor Who.
I definitely agree with you. I wouldn't have taken the Batman license. I would have taken something else. And I know, tangent atop tangent. With Telltale, some of the licenses they chose were very good. The Walking Dead was a great one because when they started making that game, The Walking Dead didn't have the value outside of the comics that it does now.
Yeah.
And that was a smart move. But Batman... so Batman's never had a problem in video games. There's never been a time where someone's been like, oh, I sure wish there was a good Batman game out there. Like, look, every generation of consoles has had a Batman game. And out of all those Batman games, one of them has been good. Yeah. Craig, who I used to work with at CA, showed me one of the Amiga Batman games where you just had to run around the Batcave solving problems. Did it have anything to do with Batman? No, not really. It was licensed.
Oh god, was that Revenge of the Joker?
Oh, you cut out a little bit there. I do apologise.
No. Is it the one that was a little bit like Head Over Heels? Was it the the Spectrum game? Yeah.
Craig is also a massive fan of Head Over Heels, but and it was really, really good. Taking something like the Batman license, you know they didn't get that cheap, and I think that was a very large misstep for them, and there were other licenses they could have gotten at a much better value to them that they didn't, and I'm just like, you can see the business missteps that they put forward. Jurassic Park, the Telltale Jurassic Park, feckin' hell.
The Telltale Jurassic Park game, it was an interesting idea. It just didn't quite work. I don't know anyone who, it's weird. I don't know anyone who played it.
Anyway, sorry. That was my tangent top of tangent. So, what I've been trying to think in my heart of hearts is like, what are the core elements for a Doctor Who title? I've always thought that solving the problems in a non-combative method is usually
that's the thing. Like I guess you guys you're about to get an exclusive, but I'm about to start recording and then launch in January a podcast not connected to the BBC, but we're playing the Doctor Who role-playing game.
Dude,
like an actual play podcast.
That's really cool.
But our model is not, here's how you play the game, here's how it works. We're going for more of an Adventure Zone model where it's about telling interesting stories and being entertaining and funny, but it's going to be Doctor Who. Jay Cripps is already asking for a link. We don't have one yet, but follow me on Twitter, because Twitter and Instagram, I'm just at Ben Paddon. As soon as we have an announcement, that's where you will see it.
I'll drop your Twitter link in chat, and hopefully, if you're not swamped in the inordinate number of things you're gonna have to do for launching a new show, hopefully you'll have time to come back in the future and plug in your stuff, yo.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, but anyway, the reason I bring that up is the Doctor Who RPG, the role playing game. It's basically D&D Doctor Who, but it places an emphasis on like problem solving or like talking your way out of a situation, or just collaborative storytelling. Yeah. So if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, when you're in combat in D&D, you have to roll initiative, and the turn order is determined by who rolled the highest, and then it goes down based on who rolled the lowest. That's the order that the turn goes in.
Yeah.
In the Doctor Who RPG, the turn order is always people who want to run go first. People who want to talk go second. People who want to do a non-combat action go third, and then anyone who wants to do a combat action goes last. So the game places an emphasis on not fighting your way out of situations. So we're writing this game right now. We've written our first campaign. We're working on the second.
Yeah.
Writing this game is like building a little LucasArts adventure game designed to be played around a tabletop. And it's so much fun and it's so rewarding. So if there's going to be a Doctor Who video game, that's what it needs to be. You need to be able to talk or think your way out of a solution, and that's why I think the LucasArts point-and-click model works best. Like something, you know who would have been good for a license in the 90s? AdventureSoft, based solely off of Simon the Sorcerer. And they did an Elvira, Mistress of the Dark game as well that was pretty good.
They did an Elvira game?
Yeah, they did, back when they were Horrorsoft.
Need this because of reasons.
They used to be called Horrorsoft. They did a couple of Elvira games. And
Horrorsoft's actually my stage name.
Horrorsoft is how I feel when I watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because it has no effect on me. I'm immune to its charms. But
just nothing below the waist.
But like AdventureSoft or LucasArts would have been the perfect company, because they're so good at building these funny and entertaining and compelling puzzle boxes. That's what LucasArts games are, and that's what a Doctor Who game needs to be. It needs to have that. You need to be able to solve a problem or talk your way out of a problem, but it also needs to have that quintessential charm and sense of humor and imagination that Doctor Who as a TV show has.
See, one of the things that I think is perhaps a little bit of a technological jump might be nice for this one. Also, Clank and some other people who've joined us later have said hello. And Prodo's talking about playing a tabletop game at the moment, where one party manages to be a tank, DPS, and a healer, because most situations are solved out of combat. Yeah, I love those kind of games.
Yeah.
So, I've been... I broke my hand a little while ago, so I've been having trouble sleeping. It's getting better, but because I had a massive cast on my hand, it's just awkward trying to fall asleep. So I've been rewatching...
Or jerk it.
Yeah. with that carbon fibre claw that it gave me. Also, I need to see a medical professional. Anyway,
I have to say, Carbon Fibre Claw was my favourite Inspector Gadget villain.
It was the non-metal detected variant. So I've been watching...
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
That's so good! That is so good. I've been rewatching Twin Peaks. And one of the things I'd actually like to see is some more nuances in system-driven interaction in adventure games.
Yeah.
There's one bit where there is a huge box inside the pavilion green. And it has a pull lever that says, "Pull me." And they're like, we don't even have a bomb squad in Twin Peaks because it's a small thing. We don't know what it is, but there's no metal inside it. So... Coop, the FBI agent we've been following through this adventure, to solve the problem, he rips up a piece of the cop tape, ties it to a rock, ties one end of the rope to the pull string, puts the rock on the side, walks over to the cop car and shoots the rock, which then pulls the pulley. And it got me thinking, like, if you could create a situation where that kind of, you could create those kind of like physical or practical solutions to those kind of problems. If you could have a system robust enough to handle those nuances, rather than like the Half-Life, put things under thing to lift it up. I think that what
you really want is you want something that's like half LucasArts adventure game and half like the Impossible Machine or whatever it's called.
How Doctor Who is that?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
And, you know, because there's a certain amount of time feckery and hand-wavery occasionally.
Occasionally, there's 55 bloody years of it behind me on my shelf right now. They did no shortage of it.
But I feel that if you could get systematic problem solving that's that robust, with Doctor Who's message of kind of like, you know, non-violent solutions, human level solutions, if you will, to some sometimes very surreal problems.
Yeah.
I think you could do a thing.
You know what you want? This is going to sound counterintuitive.
Go on.
But I really like the way that Bethesda handles like convince situations in like the Fallout games and the like, you know, when you're having to use like, you know, charm and charisma in a conversation, you have the option of like, here's this conversation option, here's its chances of success. And I think a combination of, you know, ropes and pulleys and like technical ingenuity, as well as having to actively talk your way out of it. That's the thing I miss the most about the way RPGs used to be, is you used to see an entire dialogue option, and now you get like say hi, something sarcastic, insult their mother. Like, you have a wheel, like the Mass Effect wheel.
Yeah.
I miss seeing a full... Like, I use a mod on Fallout 4 to see the entire line of dialogue I'm about to say.
That's way cool.
I miss that.
I do... Yeah, the amount of times where what I have selected as the option and what I've said out loud have been wildly different from each other is something I continue to find infuriating.
I mean, there's that fantastic... There's a voice actor on YouTube named ProZD, whose videos you've probably seen without even realizing it. And that he did this one video that's... I think the name of the video is something to the effect of when the dialogue your character says doesn't match the option you've chosen.
Yeah.
And it's a shot of him like when he's playing the character in a video game, and he holds up a sheet of paper for the dialogue options, and he presses the button for hello, and the character says, "Hello, fucker, I'm gonna kill your whole family for fun." Like, that's
L.A. Noire.
Games now.
L.A. Noire,
Yeah.
when you're talking to the old lady and it's like, question. Yeah. And you're like, question. You're like, where's the murderer? I will lock you up. And this old lady's like, oh, no, please. What I do like, that game does reference it later on in the car, which is funny. But yeah, please continue.
I used to, like, the thing I loved about L.A. Noire is, like, listening to people talking, and then I press the doubt button, and the dude just goes, yeah.
Yeah. And the video mapping on their face would just go...
Yeah. Because that's the uncanny valley of the facial animations on LOA. And I had to wait, by the way, because I'm watching the stream muted to get your video, so I had to wait to see what face you were going to pull. But sometimes it was really good, not just like uncanny valley good, but like, wow, this is a person doing this. And sometimes it was like, why am I? It's like looking at Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy. It's like just a rubber ramekin face.
CG Jeff Bridges is still just eerie.
Yeah.
I would say... please continue.
I was going to say, Peter Cushing in Rogue One looked a lot better. Like, it's still not perfect, but we're getting there, you know.
I just keep thinking of the bit from BoJack Horseman where they managed to just CGI him in for the rest of the film and he wins an Oscar. It's like...
Yeah.
Oh, but he doesn't win an Oscar. Anyway. Will, I am the creator of tangents, the spreader of the many stories, and slightly uncomfortable, so I'm changing.
What is on your chair, by the way? Have you covered it in like a blanket just in case you get cold?
I have, in case I can kind of bring it over. I actually was thinking today that I should Game of Thrones this chairs up, to keep it on brand. But yeah, it's just because it's a brown color which does not work. It's too camouflage.
That is quite gross.
It is, and now it's not because it's covered with a blanket.
See, I should do that. My chair is black and falling apart, and I've got this jacket on the back, which is the jacket I was wearing the last time I saw you, actually, with the You Don't Know Jack Penny Arcade pin that I won.
Nice. That's awesome.
For being awesome at You Don't Know Jack.
Oh, dude, my Penny Arcade box. I have like a Tupperware tub just packed full of my Penny Arcade pins, and when I move into my next space, the pin board's going back up. But yeah, actually, PAX has been an interesting one. One that I wanted to talk to you about because I mean, how to phrase this well, because you've been part of the PAX ecosystem for quite a while now.
I hadn't been. The last time I went to PAX before this year was 2013, and I did 2 PAXs this year. I did East and I did West, because I pitched talks to them, which was kind of stand-up comedy with a PowerPoint presentation about an aspect of video game history. So kind of I kind of described it as like Dave Gorman meets Charlie Brooker is kind of the approach that
that's a good description
that I've been going for. Yeah.
Then I must apologise because, as I'm sure you know, when you're touring and doing a lot of shows simultaneously, they all kind of blend together. So if we met proper 2015, that was the year I was doing the repping for Ion, a game which will never see the light of day. But I was doing the whole I was the community bloke and the PR bloke and the marketing bloke, so I was very wide-eyed and over-caffeinated across several countries.
That is my memory of you, is this kind of perpetual Simon Pegg in The World's End just after he first discovers the blue goo aliens, just walking from pub to pub.
Oh, yeah. And now I want to immediately go reference more of Mikey's stuff, because his World's End video is still just amazing.
Oh God, yeah. I adore everything Mikey does. Is absolutely sensational, and I'm not just saying that because he was kind enough to take me on board and let me do Port Center for FilmJoy, and some other stuff as well. I'm working on a pilot for another show, which is going to be less video game centric. I'm very excited about that. I'd hoped to have that ready last week, but I've been doing some kind of freelance video work, so I haven't had a chance to finish it. But
the thing that I always want to say to people is, because we were having this discussion this morning about zero punctuation, and how zero punctuation has been going for a long time. Yahtzee's a very clever bloke and has a very, very English way of phrasing things. But it comes from a very kind of like negativity standpoint, like tearing things down.
I don't. Here's the thing. I don't dislike what Yahtzee does. I think he, as you say, like, he's very eloquent. He's very good at getting his point across. But the point he gets across is frequently negative.
Yeah. And
what he's doing essentially is a more erudite, articulate version of what James Rolfe does with the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Yes.
And I used to love the Angry Video Game Nerd. Angry Video Game Nerd, Nostalgia Critic, like these are people that 10, 12 years ago I looked up to what they were doing.
Oh god, yes. Terrifying to think they've been going for 10 years.
Yeah, the problem I have with this stuff now is there's so much negativity on the internet. There's so much tearing stuff down, and I don't want to contribute to that. Like, one of the problems I've had with Port Center over the last year is I don't want to talk about bad games. I don't want to sit here and talk about why a game is bad. If I'm talking about a port that doesn't work, I want to talk about why it doesn't work. Indeed. I don't want to, like, shit on it. I've done that in the past, certainly. Like, there are older episodes of Port Center which are me literally, going full Charlie Brooker on a bad game being bad for being bad. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to I want to be more positive. I want to celebrate the things I like instead of tearing down the things I don't. Because if I don't like something, why would I spend so much time talking about it? Like, do not waste your energy tearing down something you don't like. Spend your time and your effort elevating the stuff you do, because the more people who listen to you, they may not have like, how many people who watch movies with Mikey, how many comments on a Movies with Mikey video from people who are like, oh, I've never seen this film before, I'm going to check it out. He did an episode on The Last Action Hero, like, during his first year or two. Like, I love The Last Action Hero, but it is a movie that has been consistently trashed. And Mikey did a breakdown on why that movie is a smart, sharp movie.
Yeah.
And I adore that film.
Saylan's saying, like, he straight up changed my mind on Sunrise. Yeah. I was very much the same. I actually, between you, me, and the goalposts, like, I shared the Sunrise video round with the BAFTA Films lot, because it was such a great... And the thing that I want to take forward, one of the things that I'm so keen to do now that I have a little channel on my own, now that I get to do these kind of things, is to talk about how much games, how much, like, nerd culture, how much these things matter to us. Like, there are, in my humble opinion, there are very few truly bad games. Yeah. There are some that don't do what they set out to do, and there are some that don't hit the marks they were going for, but, like, if it matters to you, then it is a great game. Yeah. I built my personality on some games that people would probably call pretty trash. But I want to do... I want to carry that positivity. I want to carry that support of art and creativity that Mikey has shown us how we can do. And I only hope to one day be as articulate as he is in those fields. Sorry, that was my little moment.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, I think that I stopped doing Port Center regularly in, like, 2015 because my parents passed away. My mother passed away in September of 2014, and my dad passed away like a month and a half later.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
It happens, parents, if they do the jobs properly, they prepare you for the world, and then they die. That is what parents do.
Yes.
But I didn't deal with it very well. In fact, I didn't deal with it at all. And in the second half of 2015, probably only a couple of months after I met you for the first time, I had a full-on breakdown. I'm very open and transparent about what happened. I kind of collapsed in on myself, and I have no memory of like anything from August 2015 to about January, February 2016. It's gone. I remember watching Doctor Who. I remember going to see Goosebumps in the theaters. I think I remember watching some Jessica Jones, but not a lot. And I know I was staying in the spare room at a friend's house because they were basically taking care of me. Like, that's my memory. And
God, we are eerily similar blokes. This is.
I know I had a point. This was building to something, and it's gone now.
It was.
What were we talking about?
It was the positivity and how much these things matter.
Like, I stopped doing Port Center for a while, and when I came back about a year and a half ago. I did an episode on the Game Boy Advance version of Doom, which I'd written a year and a half earlier but hadn't produced.
Yeah.
And then I did my next episode after that was about the Super Nintendo version of SimCity. Yeah. Now, if I'm assuming you've played the Super Nintendo version. If there is anyone in chat that has not played the Super Nintendo version of SimCity, you need to play it. Yes. It is the best version of SimCity ever made. And it is, in my opinion, a perfect distillation of what makes Nintendo games great. Because Nintendo developed that version in-house. They licensed the game from Maxis and EA and developed their own version. And I did a whole episode of Port Center about why, not just why that game is so good, but about what it means as a microcosm of Nintendo games, and tied that into my family history and growing up. Like, I grew up playing SimCity on the Amiga, and that was one of my mum's favorite games. And the SimCity episode of Port Center is the best thing I've ever made and will ever make. Like, it's Mikey and I still talk about it as like, that's always for me. That's the goal to strike for when I make a video, is I want to make another SimCity. I don't think I'm ever going to get there. I think I've peaked, but that's, you know, when I'm shooting for the goalpost, that's the goal I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
Because it is funny, and it is informative, and it is poignant, and it's personal. And I think I write better videos, I make better videos when I am talking about something personal. And that was also really the first time I talked publicly about my parents passing away since the breakdown. Like,
yeah, dude.
I don't expect everyone to know my history, but like, I wasn't working for most of 2014, and I did a GoFundMe to raise money to fly to England to surprise my mother for her 58th birthday.
Aww.
And we got the money. Some wonderful people chipped in. Industry friend Marcus Beer put a pretty sizable chunk towards my plane ticket. And I landed in England. We were having a surprise party for my mum on the 5th. I left LA on the 2nd. I landed on the 3rd because you lose a day flying over there, as you know, I'm sure. And I got to my sister's house, and half an hour after I arrived at my sister's house, we got a phone call from a paramedic saying that our mum had been found dead in her home. Like, the person I'd flown to the country to see wasn't there anymore, and I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks. I ended up being there for a month, and then I got back to America, and my dad, who, as I mentioned previously, he lived here, he passed away like 3 weeks later. Like, that was the roughest time of my life, and it was difficult to be. It's hard to be creative when you're processing that much. It's trauma, is what it is. Like, I know I'm getting horribly, like, we've had a lot of fun, and I kind of hate that I've brought the mood down a little bit, but like, it's hard to be positive, and it's hard to be creative when your brain is kind of marinating in this soup of grief.
Yeah.
And but now, like,
please don't worry about the topics, because I've told many a tale on here. I also on the kind of like the emotional content, like I found that since I started doing this, when going through these titles, especially on live streams and things like that, I get far more emotionally invested. So there've been more than a few games that have reduced me to tears on camera, and I think that you can't with good conscience stand up and say, I want to talk about this art without being able to talk about where it comes from. It doesn't always come from happy places. It very rarely comes from happy places.
Yeah, and that's something that Mikey's been very public about as well, with movies with Mikey, particularly over the last year and a half since he fell ill in after PAX East last year. Like, a lot of what he was doing with Movies with Mikey has been a catharsis for him. It's been him like kind of feeling through his. So like this is something that, you know, but also art can be surprisingly like. Art can be moving in a way that you weren't expecting it to. Like, when I finally finished Super Mario Galaxy, I cried. I cried for half an hour. Because, like, Mario Galaxy is, in my opinion, it's the best Mario game ever made. Not just because it's fun and it does some cool mechanic stuff, but it is the, in my opinion, the only Mario game that has heart. It has all of the stuff with Rosalina, and it has the storybook stuff, and the soundtrack is gorgeous. Like, it is the stupidest thing in the world that the opening notes, the opening introduction of the theme for Good Egg Galaxy, that moves me to tears. It genuinely does. Like, it is a beautiful game. I love that game so much. But like, you know, art does unexpected things to you. Like, when Peter Capaldi's second season of Doctor Who aired while I was having my breakdown, and I remember watching it. And there's an episode. I don't know how much of Peter Capaldi stuff you've seen, but there's an episode called Heaven Sent, which is the pre-finale, and it's a one-hander. It's just Capaldi in this kind of big, kind of clockwork castle maze. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. If you've got Amazon Prime, Doctor Who is on Amazon Prime. Just watch that episode, because that episode itself, that whole episode is a metaphor for grief, and I burst into tears like halfway through that episode, and I didn't stop for the rest of the night. Like, that episode, it was like someone had taken everything that was going on in my chest and my heart and my head and had put it on the screen on my favorite television show. Like, and The Shape of Water as well. Like, as someone who is disabled, The Shape of Water, like, I've never connected with a character quite as much as I connected to Eliza Esposito, because there's this. I hope you've seen The Shape of Water, but there's that scene where she's talking to her neighbor, that the Say What I Sign scene, where she's talking about when the fishman, when he sees me, he does not see what I lack. And that was so important to me, because I you know, particularly since the fibromyalgia and the tendonitis, I've had friends, and I've dated a couple of people who couldn't look past the fact that I have a disability. Like, that was, I was disabled first before I was, me, Ben, before I was a writer, before I was a YouTuber, but before anything else, all they saw was the disability. And I'm in a very fortunate position now where I'm with someone who, they see me as me first, and the disability is a thing that we deal with if and when it pops up. And she's super caring and understanding, and I think she's still watching the stream right now, so I fully expect to get like a dick joke by text.
Oh god, yeah. Oh yeah.
As a way to offset the sentimentality.
That's the English method. Got to offset it.
Yeah. But like, I mean, we've gotten very real over the last 5 minutes, but like, it's, but I think this isn't. It's important stuff. It's people talk about video games are not art. Like, video games are art, and even it's one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot over the last few weeks is people saying, "Oh, I don't want politics in my media." Like, there's no such thing as media, TV shows, films, music, books, video games, whatever. There is no such thing as apolitical media, because even if a show, a video game, a book, a song chooses not to be political, that is still a political decision. Yes. By choosing to ignore the politics, that is in itself a political decision. Yeah. So when people complain about, and I'm going to keep talking about it because it's like my go-to, but like Doctor Who, for example, we have our first female Doctor, first woman actor, actress playing the Doctor, which is a phenomenal choice. She's a wonderful actor.
Yeah. I got to put my hand up and say I have not seen any of the new ones.
I won't spoil anything for you, but she's great. The season so far has been 50-50, but she has been great. Yeah. The companions are great. We have an older man in the TARDIS. We have a black boy. No, we have a black 20-something in the TARDIS. We have a Pakistani Muslim woman in the TARDIS now. Like, it's a really cool group.
We've got a proper squad in there, yo.
Yeah, it's a super awesome team to have in the TARDIS. And there are people who are complaining, oh, it's too political now. Oh, they're just catering to the social. I don't want politics in my sci-fi. Science fiction has always been political. It has always. Star Trek has been political since day one. Doctor Who has been political since day. When the show was created in 1963, the 3 people instrumental in its creation were a Jewish woman, a gay Indian man, and a Canadian immigrant. Like, Doctor Who has been political since day one, and it really rubs me the wrong way when people are like, well, I don't want politics. They're just, they're getting all political now. I don't want
none of them politics. None of that.
Sling your bloody hook. Like, I
don't.
The
one that Wraith brought in was, and I've been using them as a punching bag on this very topic quite a bit, is Ubisoft. Ubisoft recently made a statement saying that they would be avoiding any kind of political discussions in their games, and I'm not going to rehash because a lot of people here have already been through this dance with me, but it's negligent and it's ignorant and it's frankly offensive by Ubisoft in that one. You know, the people who made a game where you shoot civilians in New York who are trapped and trying to survive because of reasons. So, and Port Center saying that BritBox has the classic Doctor Who series. I know that was you, but I wanted to sing it from the rooftops.
I didn't want to interrupt what you were saying, but I also wanted to give a Sorry Greenfire response to their statement. Yeah, BritBox has most of classic Doctor Who except for they don't have any of the missing stuff, or they have some animated reconstructions of the missing stuff.
Yeah.
And there are some stories that are not available due to licensing reasons. Like, for example, there's a couple of episodes. There's one episode where a track from the Beatles song.
Sorry, J-Post just grifted a sub to Port Center. Yay!
Yay!
J-Post, you wonderfully generous and kind, silly Mother Hubbard. So I promise I'm going to get the topics back onto silliness whilst we fill the chat with friendos. But, I mean, video games for me have been so much. They've been a social element. Yeah. One of my best drinking evenings of recent memory has been inviting everyone around my flat. And using a Steam Link, we took turns playing My Summer Car while drinking. And that game is a lovely sandbox mosh pit. It is wonderful. My story is one that we told a lot, so it doesn't need a retelling here. But while dealing with a big old dump truck of grief last year, I went through Final Fantasy 15, and holy crud, that was everything that I needed at that point. And the ending and how it brought it together for me was both a gaming and emotional catharsis on a level that at some point I will go into. But that's not a short conversation. That's like a 2-hour, there's an intermission at one point. People are allowed to get snacks. I do a sonnet halfway. It's
What we'll do is we'll have that conversation off air at some point over a game of Worms or something.
No, dude. Okay, so I was saying, right, the last time we played Worms, and unfortunately the footage got corrupted, which is one of the great tragedies, I invited 2 friends around my house, and I was like, let's play Worms. And the plan that evening was to drink and make a YouTube video. So I'm like, shot Worms. So, yeah. Turns out they hadn't played it quite as much as I had back in my youth. So we were doing, you have 4 tequila shots in front of you, and each time you lose a worm, you knock it back. But the thing was, I was playing the safety, so I was playing bastard tunnel game early on until they were so hammered they couldn't make the long grenade shots and things like that. And I was just raining death upon them. Both my toilet and sink were blocked from people being horrendously, vomitously ill.
Oh no.
I still remember just listening to the door of one person holding the other person's hair back and then being like, oh, I don't feel so good. And then... yeah, just them doing like a dueling banjos of dry retching.
We did something.
That was my penance.
We tried to be. We tried to do something. So Mikey and I flew out to see him back in 2015. Yeah. And we shot a few videos, only one of which ended up going up onto the channel. Yeah. But we did a bunch of video game videos. We played through Super Mario World, and we tried to do the Star Road. And every time we died, we would drink a Heineken and eat Star Crunch. It was a bad time. We tried to do one where it was Worms Armageddon, and I can't remember what the the scenario was, but if we lost, I don't know if we lost a worm or we failed to make a shot or something, we had to do a shot of cold SpaghettiOs.
Okay, but why though?
The thing you have to remember is that I hate myself, and I'm constantly making bad decisions.
How have we not become friends sooner?
Well, one thing we should do, and I mentioned this to you last night, and obviously there was no way we would have had time to set it up today, but
yeah.
There's an Amiga emulator that can be played over network. So there's no reason why we couldn't, for example, get a game of Worms the Director's Cut going over a network, and stream that for a bit.
You know what? That would be stonking. So I don't think I'm going to have any rebellions to the idea that you should come back on the show at some point and we should crack in some Worms.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how the Q&A section went whilst we were doing whilst I was off on the tea break, because what I'd like to do is do a little Q&A with you now, and then start wrapping this portion of the show to a close. So that we've got some material for next time that you're coming back on.
Yeah.
And hopefully these helicopters will stop buzzing me. Like, yo, I get it. There's two gingers hanging out. Good.
So I live not too far from Burbank Airport.
Okay.
So we record the podcast I do, The Life Toyetic with Ben and Molly. We record it in this room.
Okay.
So when it's like a high traffic day, we have to stop to wait for the sound of the plane going overhead and then resume. And Molly does the edit, so there's like this like 30 to 60 second chunks of airplane that she has to just cut out. And the fact that you don't notice them, in the episodes is, I think, a testament to how amazing an editor Molly is.
That is some badass skills. I hate editing audio. I hate it with a passion. But there we go. So, you lovely, lovely folks, now is the time. Now is the winter of our discount tents. If you have any questions for Ben, now's the time to throw it in.
Straight away to answer Sorry Greenfire's question of whether I have a Twitch or a YouTube channel. The Twitch is Port Center, which you can currently see on the screen because someone gifted me a sub. And the YouTube is Filmjoy, which I share with the esteemed Mikey Newman.
Indeed.
Mikey Newman, most of the subs are for him because he does movies with Mikey, and I do Port Center.
I've thrown in a link to the SimCity episode that you can give.
Oh, thank you very much.
So that people can give that a watch.
That's easily my best thing.
And failing those, you can indeed follow Ben on the majestic Twitters for, I guess, a good way to keep up with all of that as it's going on.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm at Ben Paddon on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. Grindr, yeah, I'm always on Grindr. A friend of mine, my friend in England, he's a comedian by the name of Frizz Frizzle. He's amazing. He's won awards at like Edinburgh.
Is he also a ginger?
He's not ginger, unfortunately.
With a handle like Frizz Frizzler.
Frizz Frizzle is sadly not because his last name is Frizzle. So
Frizzler was his Frizzler was his father's name. Just call me Frizzle.
Yes, please, Mr. Frizzle was my father. He has this fantastic joke, and the reason I'm spending 50 minutes like doing the preamble of who this joke is because I hate it when comedians steal other comedians' jokes. By the way, if you're in the Los Angeles area, I do stand up like at a bunch of conventions, at a bunch of events in the LA area.
Very cool.
And you can always find out by going to benpaddon.net. I always have all my live dates up there as well.
.gov.
benpaddon.gov.au. But he has this joke. I've spent so much time talking about Frizz, and I'm not mentioning his bloody joke now. He has this joke of, I can't remember whether I was on the Pizza Hut app or on Grindr, but either way, there's a 12-inch veggie on the way.
Oh, well, none left beef is all I'm getting.
None pizza with left beef is the best pizza.
Oh, so a friend of mine was just there's those little things in life that just continue to make you laugh regardless. Yeah. None left pizza with beef, and the mouth bowl are the two. A guy pouring cereal and milk into his own mouth as he's lying on the floor. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world; it just destroys me in the best way.
There's a picture I posted to Twitter late last night because I saw it on Tumblr late, and I spend too much time on Tumblr. It's bad. But It's this picture of this girl, and I think she's in college, but she's eating spaghetti out of a Ziploc bag. And it just ruined me. Like 1 o'clock in the morning, I was laughing so hard. I woke up my roommate. I had to be up at 5 in the morning.
Yes!
And this picture is nothing. But I was mesmerized by it. It was so absurd.
The more you look into it, the more you see. Jumping back ever so slightly. So None was saying that the Dolphin, the Wii GameCube emulator, also has networking support. I'm always a little bit hesitant to do anything around emulation or I'm hesitant to do anything around emulation of recent titles. Nintendo, Nintendo are not known to be understanding when it comes to these things.
They're not great.
So it's one of the reasons why I haven't done a lot of retro titles yet as streamed, is because until I am established and I can ship over my cartridges and stuff from the UK, unless I'm able to physically hold up a cartridge to the screen and say I own this and this is how I am running it, I'm hesitant to do it.
Yeah. Whereas I think you can get away with it with Worms the Director's Cut because A, nobody owns an Amiga anymore, and B, the game only sold 5,000 copies, and I know that because I bought one of them. It's like the worst-selling Worms game of all time.
Oh, wow.
But possibly the best-selling Amiga game of 1997. We may never know.
I mean, bloody hell, there's probably an N-Gage pocket version or something that tanked it.
Oh, there was an N-Gage port of Worms World Party.
I should have bloody known! Feckin' N-Gage.
There was going to be a Gizmodo port as well, but that kind of... The Gizmodo kind of fell in on itself.
Oh, dude, we could do an entire feckin' day talking about the Gizmodo. It was gonna be the future. It was gonna be the new paradigm. Then the shenanigans and the brown paper bags of money and all of the stuff that happened with that. Oh, you know what? If all of you need like a calm but hilarious read this afternoon, look up the Gizmodo and just like strap in, settle down, brew that tea, because
that whole thing. Man,
the Ouya wishes it was dramatic as the Gizmodo.
Everyone was talking about it, and then suddenly, no one was. It was... It kind of... I mean, it's the same thing kind of with the N-Gage. I remember a certain amount of pre-release buzz for the N-Gage, and then the whole thing comes out, and it's a taco phone. And,
it's a really bad taco phone.
You have to take the battery out to change the game cartridges. Like...
Yup. What a great design feature that was!
Good job, Nokia. That's why you are still the powerhouse in... Sorry, what's that?
Oh, wait, what's...
Oh, you don't... Okay, they don't exist anymore. They are part of Microsoft.
They should have just gone into... I mean, as we all know, they should have just gone into ARMS development, because, like, an armoured wall of the original Nokia mobiles, like, that can stop just about anything. It's
remember...
It's our generation's boot leather.
Yeah, they built... Well, you could build a house out of the original Xboxes and then use the N-Gage for, like the slatting on the walls.
Oh, all I remember is my classic Xbox. Back when you could still get the plastic see-through was still like a collector's edition thing. I remember those overheating like a mother hubbard. So yeah.
I have a classic Xbox which I bought for Port Center, and I got one of the translucent plastic ones. I also just my first Game Boy Color, the only Game Boy Color I ever had, was one of those atomic purple ones with the frosted transparent purple plastic.
Oh, dude, those were so cool. Because my DMG original got dropped down the stairs and the screen cracked and the LCD, the liquid crystal leaked everywhere, and.
Condolences, I'm so sorry.
To this day, I can still remember the sound of plastic hitting wood as it hit on all the worst points. And I was so heartbroken. And one of the few times where my parental unit caved in terms of video game stuff, and they got me a replacement, which was one of the translucent purple Game Boy Colors. And I'm just like...
Well... The reason I bring it up is after I'd had my Switch for about a year, I figured, you know what, I've had it for a year, it's probably not going to break.
Yeah.
I bought one of those case mods for it that where you can, you take the shell off of the console and the Joy-Cons. And I got one that was the atomic purple, so I have an atomic purple Nintendo Switch.
That's feckin' cool, dude. That is feckin' cool.
Which reminds me, I don't know if you have a Switch, but we're probably going to have to swap friend codes at some point. So we can...
Yes, but I'm still working on getting this back to 100%. I haven't tried it yet, I've been able to play games via the 360 pad, but because it's got a nice chunky hold.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that one. So let's see. I didn't see any more questions thrown in because I think lordy. So to recap, I think today was a stonkingly good day in terms of conversation.
This was a lot of fun.
What we can learn, especially from those old companies during that kind of crazy Wild West transition, I think there is still a lot of lessons we can take from those halcyon days of the 90s games industry. And I think they apply now more than ever before. Now the digital distribution has removed the necessity for a big company. You can succeed on your own. Yeah. So let us look to the past and learn the failures of others and not repeat them. And I think we did a good job telling those stories.
I completely agree. And I think for me, like the main lesson from the early days of the game industry are don't be afraid to take risks. Like the big problem with AAA development is there's not a lot of risk taking going on.
Yeah.
Case in point, some of the stuff Ubisoft is doing with the Assassin's Creed games, as we mentioned earlier, like they're not even touching politics, and those games have kind of been, I don't want to say stagnant, but they don't really feel like they've done a lot new over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
A lot of the interesting stuff that's happening in games right now is happening in the indie space.
Yeah.
And it's very reminiscent of bedroom coders from the 80s and the Britsoft environment of the early 90s. Companies like Sensible Software and the Bitmap Brothers. Companies that were not afraid to try something new.
Bitmap Brothers, bloody hell. There's a name.
Games like Speedball and Gods and Mania and stuff like that.
Oh, those tiny legends that you get on a shareware CD that would just change your world. And the companies that have survived, or the companies that thrived and then keeled over, there's a lot of lessons to be had there. And I quite like the idea. I only really thought of it when I was writing the tweet today, but I quite like the idea of doing like an Aesop's Fables style book of the old UK games industry. But replace all the major players with geese and a random goat. And Random Goat took left Bullfrog Interactive and formed Lionhead. And so on and so forth.
David the Sea Otter developed Frontier Elite 2 by himself without the assistance of his friend Terence the Platypus, who had helped him develop Elite on the BBC Micro some years previously.
You can't tell me you don't want to hear that and you wouldn't read that.
I need it in my life, and I want Stephen Fry to read the audiobook.
Oh god, yes. He'll do it. Stephen Fry will do anything for a paycheck.
Yeah, he did Little Big Planet.
Yeah, and he did
the
intros to the UK whenever you land on a plane. Those are always funny.
Yeah.
Actually, that's another one of those things. If you haven't looked it up, Stephen Fry introduces people to English culture. It's so good.
Have you ever bought literally any BBC DVD here in the last 10 years? Because they have this little animated introduction that's voiced by John Oliver.
Wait.
They're amazing.
Oh, there is so much I've left to learn.
Well, actually, I'll see if I can find it on YouTube now. But
sorry, I just saw Dr. P's comment, which was, after doing several pounds of cocaine, George the Sheep bought stocks in the Sega Dreamcast, assured it would be the future of gaming.
I'm trying to find... God, it's all last week tonight. Oh, here we go. I think this is it. I'm going to copy the link.
Yeah, what is it with Brits moving over here and then doing way better than they did back in the UK? It's like a trend or something.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm alright about it.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lordy. Okay, so I will say that I haven't seen any more questions, any more pop-ups. So I'm going to bring at least this proportion. I don't know how words work. Good luck. I'm going to bring this portion of the stream to a close.
Good. I'm going to go off and get something to eat, I think.
Thank you so much for coming on, dude. This has been fucking great.
Thank you for having me. This has been an absolute blast. I really enjoyed it. You're always easy and fun to talk to, and
I mean,
I really hope the audio didn't cut off there with me just saying you're always easy.
I mean, it's true, but
it's not inaccurate. Dr. Pepper wants me to take his lunch money. I'll give you my Venmo if you want to. I don't know.
Feckin' Venmo.
There's a link to my PayPal on my Twitch page.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really hoping today is that this very kind of conversation, like those oddity chats that we've had at events and hanging out, I was hoping we'd be able to show people a little bit of that, along with the tales of the industry, and that has been achieved wholeheartedly. So
yeah,
thank you.
This was a real blast. Thanks for having me on. This has been a long time in the making. I'm glad that we were finally able to do it.
Yeah.
Anytime you want me on again, just let me know and I'm there.
I'd really like that. So I tell you what, once your new podcast thing is kicking off again, I'd love to have you on the show to talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right.
Cool.
You posted Port Center. Let me just quickly ping your Twitter one last time.
Yeah. I'm also going to post this a link to my main website. You can find out all of the projects I'm working on. You can find out when I'm doing live stand-up in Los Angeles. If I ever go anywhere else like PAX or I've done some shows on the East Coast. I got to do a stand-up in London a couple of years ago, last time I was there. So if that ever happens, it's all there. And yeah, that's where you can also find the latest news and about what I'm up to. And yeah. I'm going to be at Anime Los Angeles in January. I'm going to be at SAC Anime in Sacramento also in January.
You do a lot of stuff with the anime scene as well.
It's weird. Here's the thing. I'm not a big anime fan. My girlfriend is a huge anime fan, and she's starting to get me into things like Mr. Osamatsu and Lupin the Third, which I'm really enjoying. But I'm not a big anime person, but I do stand up at a lot of anime conventions. So
okay.
Stand up and panel moderation as well.
Do you mind if I leave you with an anime recommendation, if that's okay?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I'd love to recommend you Death Parade.
Death
season.
Parade.
I think it's one season. I think it's either 12 or 16 episodes, and it's just one season and done. Death Parade.
Okay.
If you can go into it blind, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous.
I will make a note of that. And by make a note of that, I mean I'm going to text my girlfriend and make sure that this isn't a bad recommendation. Because the thing, I don't know what it is about anime, but when you tell someone, oh, I haven't seen a lot of anime before, and people go, oh no, it's really good. And then they start recommending things to you that they know are awful.
Oh yeah.
On purpose. Like, that's something that almost everyone I've met who's into anime has done almost straight out of the gate.
Oh yeah. We're lucky because everyone... Hey! We got a teeny tiny raid from Jolt Jab.
Nice.
Jolt
awesome.
Jab. Here's me trying to bring it to a close. Feck it. So Jolt Jab, what old friend and welcome.
Actually, my girlfriend just texted me to say she's been meaning to watch Death Parade, so I think we're watching Death Parade at some point.
It is exceedingly good.
She's watching the stream. Also, I should point out that my wonderful girlfriend Mandy is watching the stream, and she's a better person than I am, and she knows that.
So I'm just going to turn this off real, like the worm defense as it's coming in on my face, like, oh god. Need to sort this one out. We can actually do defense now, and chat is saying hi, Mandy. I was going to say that it's good. Chat wouldn't let me recommend you something terrible because they would call me out.
Oh yeah, that's always good. It's good to have like this buffer of all of these people in the chat who don't know me, but for some reason have my best interests at heart, and I'm on top of that.
They're a good crowd.
I approve wholeheartedly.
And in terms of good people, so Jolt Jab, who just laid an awesome raid with 14 people coming in. Jolt Jab is a game developer who works on Twitch.
Nice.
We both are part of Go Pirate Software's team. That's another game developer who does a lot of streaming. Jolt Jab is excellent people and streams the development of his game on Twitch, and we finally got to hang out. And to Jolt, this is Ben. Ben is a lovely bloke, a Cali-based Brit who does an inordinate number of things in an inordinate number of different places. You may have seen his work on the Film Joy channel with Port Center and work like that, or if you know... or if you want to jam Doctor Who stories, like, yo...
Oh, yeah.
Yo.
Again, for those of you who didn't see before, the top two rows of my DVD shelf back there, that's all Doctor Who. Everything from classic Doctor Who right through to the modern stuff and the spin-offs.
Do you want to know the worst part? Just in terms of, like, reflectively spotting merch in the back, the Wreck-It Ralph Disney Infinity figure was the first thing I spotted.
Yeah, there he is.
Just hanging out, big old Ralph.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of Sonic screwdrivers over there. I've got all of Star Trek on DVD. I've got a Dalek over there. I've got the TARDIS over here. I have actually. I'm gonna get this thing. I'm gonna show it because I'm very proud of this.
Go do the thing because Jolt Jab's here. So I'm definitely not going to be bringing the stream to a close. We were just moving over from the interview portion to the gaming portion.
This is a Sonic screwdriver.
Okay.
But this is not just any Sonic screwdriver. Firstly, this was made by Nick Robardo, who made the Sonics for the show.
No big deal.
It is a customized version. Well, it's not like I requested it. He had made a few of these, or a couple of these. It is made using the same components as the one that they used for Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi's first Sonic screwdriver.
Dude!
But it is in custom colors. Instead of having a green light, it is in blue. It has silver and black trim instead of the chrome and gold that Matt's Sonic has. It's got some Gallifreyan symbols along the side there.
No big heckin' deal.
And it is exactly the same as the Sonic that Matt Smith used on the show.
That's so freaking cool!
I bought this at Gallifrey 1, which is a big Doctor Who convention they have here in LA every February.
Yeah.
Nick Robardo makes licensed replicas of the props from the show, so you can actually buy a replica of Matt Smith's Sonic screwdriver from, it's called Rubber Toe Props. And I bought this one. I think he said he only made 2 or 3 of this particular coloring. But I saw it and I fell in love with it. It was way too expensive, but I had to have it. I kind of bought it because I knew it was the kind of thing that my dad would have loved, so I bought it to share with my dad, even though he's not here anymore. So it's like it's kind of our Sonic in a weird way, but
so cool.
It is a thing of beauty, and I love
wonderful.
it.
I wanted to let you know though that the chat's reaction is 50% losing their heck and 50% despising you for having something so cool that they don't. Like, it's 50-50. Like, love it, oh my god, and I hate you right now.
Yeah. Well, my love of Doctor Who is the thing I'm going to bring to that podcast we're doing. We're going to be playing the Doctor Who role-playing game. I'm going to be the game master.
Indeed.
We have a fantastic. I'm not going to say anything more about who's on the podcast because we have some really, really cool people. We have a phenomenal comedian and a writer for a fairly prominent animated TV show. I'm not going to say any more than that. But I'm really excited about we record the first arc this Saturday, and we're hoping to launch the podcast in January. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Dude, that sounds heckin' cool. So, yeah. So, once again, Ben, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. What a feckin' lovely day it's been.
Yeah.
And
we should just chat more often, whether you're streaming or not. Like, do you have Worms Armageddon? We should just play Worms Armageddon at some point.
Of course I bloody got Worms Armageddon.
It's frequently on sale on Steam for like $3, by the way. So if anyone doesn't have Worms Armageddon, you do need to buy it. Actually, Get to the Boat just asked a question.
Go for it.
They say, hey Ben, I think I might have the beginnings of tendonitis. Do you have any advice for someone that works on a PC all day to help lessen the pain? I have a couple of recommendations. Firstly, you can get these compression gloves, which they have a grip. They kind of compress the hands. It's not perfect, but they help. I got
a budget one for my recovery, so...
Yeah. In terms of, like... I mean, for pain management, I have a lot of... I rely on Aleve. My sister she's still in England, so whenever I go there, I come back with... these industrial strength paracetamol called Zapain, but that also helps with the fibromyalgia generally. I have found that I live in California, so like CBD based products are legal here.
Ooh.
So there's this cannabis balm by a company called Annie's Own, which is immensely helpful for my soft shitty hands. And I also get dry skin on my hands. I don't know if that's part of the tendonitis, but there is a Lush cream which is called Dream Cream, which sounds like a sexy lubricant, but it is
really
not.
Does. Hey, if it does the job for both, that's a winner right there, or an expensive winner.
So yeah, but I always like if anyone has any questions about fibromyalgia or tendonitis, we're coming to the end of my time on the stream, so obviously we can't talk about that here, but if you want to get in touch with me, I have a contact form on my website, benpaddon.net. You can tweet me, you can send me a message on Instagram, Tumblr, whatever you want to do. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I've lived with fibromyalgia now for 3.5 years. It is not easy, but it's, anything. If there's anything I've learned that I can share with people who are also suffering from tendonitis or fibromyalgia, or I'm going to put this out as well. I do have clinical depression. I'm very open and honest about that as well. So if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them off of the stream. So feel free to get in touch.
Very cool. Thank you for being an excellent host, a lovely person, and just as ginger and British as I needed today.
I'm glad I could accommodate your ginger British requirements.
Dude, I do the Matt Berry voice here so much. Accelerating to 40 miles per wolf hour.
Hello, computer man. God damn these electric sex pants.
Oh, dude, I might have to... you know what? If I get into Matt Berry stuff, we will be here for hours. So, Ben, once again, thank you for being the most splendiferous guest, and I will talk to you soon, alright?
Alright, take it easy.
Alrighty, let's push some buttons. Okay, and let's go back to talk show. So yeah, everybody, that was Ben. You can all understand now why I've been, one, so keen to get him on the show, and two, so keen to introduce him to you all. He is a phenomenally lovely person, and yeah, I hope to have multiple excuses to talk to him again. So, and yes, Alleged Man, we should absolutely play some Worms on stream. I also want to say thank you to, once again, to Jolt Jab and the people who came over from Jolt Jab's stream. Hello and welcome! We got ourselves a splendiferous day. The talk show element has now passed. Now is the winter of our discount tents. However, from the amount of tea that I've been hoofing today, I am desperately busting for the bathroom. So I am going to throw up a BRB needs tea, and we are going to go from there. I would love it if you would join me for some video gaming and some shenanigans. And if any of you recognise the soundtrack in the background, yes, it is the Shining Force 3, both Scenario 1 and 2 soundtrack that we've got chilling and illing behind us. So yes, I will be back with you all with a fresh cuppa in just a second, and then we'll get on with some gaming. I've got a couple of thoughts, yeah, we'll have a little chat about that in just a moment. But if I don't get a cup of tea and use the bathroom, I'm going to detonate in the most ugly manner. So I will be right back with you in just a second.